You excited to get some more games in with your big dino list?
I am. Like, I need... So, here's the thing. And I'm going to tell you some real shit in just a minute. But I need some games against weaker players to get a better handle on how the unit works. And actually a lot of my army, because the problem is I've been playing into like you and Colin, who are both strong at what you do.
I do. So I do want to talk to you. Like you mentioning weaker players is it's not a bad thing actually. I find a lot of the time, strangely enough, to play into a weaker opponent, and it's not for like the fact that you you want to crush them or like just stomp them into the ground and get like that dopamine of being like winning. It's not that. It's really like when
it's good to. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's a really good test ground for shit that you're like, I need to fundamentally understand this regiment first, or like any unit. I need to understand it fundamentally. So if I play like it's like playing a game on like an easier difficulty, so that you can get like the motions of like I don't know, let's just use an FPS. Like you get the motions of the weapon or the gun or the character down if you're playing like a team-based FPS like TF2 or Overwatch. Like you play on lower settings so that you can feel more comfortable with the new character or weapon or whatever before you go back to your hard setting, because now you don't need to like learn the character or anything and also like play at your peak performance to win.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like I want to get, so that's why I'm hoping some of those new people will be out this week. As shitty as that sounds, like I'm not going to like stomp their asses or anything, but it's just like you do learn a lot from losing. I'll absolutely concede that, and I don't mind. Even though I get pissy in the moment, I really don't mind losing games because I generally learn things from it. But also, there's something to be said for like having an opportunity to use a unit confidently and like see it through in not against the ropes. That also helps with learning and analysis.
Well, you really get to see it what it does at its full potential, so you know you have a better idea of like where you would put that regiment into, and like if I do include this part in it like it really makes us sound like no, you got to go for the weaker guys. It's like no, it's not about that. Like I play a lot of different opponents because it's just like they play a lot of like other people will play a lot of different stuff, and I just want to play people. I don't really give a shit about your skill set.
Yeah, it's I think that you need you need good data and bad data really to get a picture of things.
But also like another thing is like when a weaker opponent plays you, they lose and they're going to learn a bunch from their mistake. You understand the full potential of your regiments more and in like an optimal situation or where you can like really see the line, and it helps you like really place that regiment. I'm just using Conquest terms at this point, fuck it. And then when you go, like we've already discussed, like when you go to your stronger opponents, you have a good idea of like where the perfect spot for this regiment is. And your positive data where it's like, okay, I now don't have to waste knowing that COC are not going to have a good time against Ashen Dawn. Like you don't have like I'm doing a very like aggressive example, but like maybe it's COC versus Hold Thanes or something. Like maybe
it's also like
you want to see how they anvil well or whatever.
I think this is an analogy that you'll like. It applies to Souls games, but my frame of reference is for Armored Core 6 because it's the closest thing to a Souls game that I have the patience for.
Big Robot Go Bear.
Yeah, it's a great game, by the way. If you haven't played it, I would definitely recommend it.
I gotta beat Baldur's Gate 3. I've basically been like sick since Thursday. Like we played our game on Thursday. I coughed, went home, and then it was like sick.
It sucks.
And I've just been getting out of it now.
Yeah, I know that goes. That whatever I got really kicked the shit out of me too. But so the analogy I wanted to make though, and I think this is portable to Souls-like games as well, is like if you only a lot of bosses I would get stuck initially on the first phase. And I would eventually get really good at the first phase and be able to execute it like really well but then I would get to the second phase and just get smoked because I didn't have, like, I had spent so long in the first phase that I didn't have any experience on the second one. So if you're only getting, like, your guys up the table and then they're getting blitzed, like, you're not learning that second phase of the game of actually, like, using your guys properly. So that's why it's good to occasionally have matches where it's, you easily kind of get in there and are able to do the thing without necessarily, like, fighting for your life every activation.
Every guy is like, dodge roll, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you know, I'm a huge Souls fan. No, that does make sense. I'm just thinking now, I'm like, my god, am I a Dark Souls boss for you?
Well, so that's the other thing is I've noticed the general tone, and I mean, this is, like, it's certainly earned, but all of the really high-level players in the community have maybe gotten a little too comfortable with that, and that's motivating me to improve my skills by wide margins. That way I can just come in as a big fucking idiot and just start clowning on people and putting, like, just giving them a little shred of humbleness to roll around.
We need a new god to come in and just knock all these people off their fucking thrones.
I mean, just a couple of key L's. Like, I don't think I'm going to be the best player in the world or anything, but I think I need to claw my way up and just, like, get some of those key wins. First of all, to assert that I can hang, and second of all, I just think a lot of you have gotten a little too comfortable being very good.
Man, I need to lose more.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you see it too, because that makes it a lot. Because some people you say, like, oh, I need to beat your ass a couple times just for your own good, and they're like, well, no, you don't.
It's like, I don't give a like,
I need to just get better forever.
Yeah, you're always in the learning phase. No, I like me losing really, like, if I've lost, I've done something big to lose, and I can usually figure out what it is 9 times out of 10. And when I win games, it's a lot harder for me to find mistakes in play. Like, the game I just played earlier today, there will be a battle report on before this episode even goes out. So this is, for people listening to it now, it's in the past, but for me, it's literally 3 hours ago.
3 hours ago of futures past.
Yeah. What was it? I had pardon me. I had a unit of Ashen Dawn that I put on the zone. We were playing Decline Flank because I was like, okay, I want to play this scenario so I have a better understanding of all them. I'm just kind of going through, like, the different scenarios and playing them just so I can get a feel. And I put my Ashen Dawn regiment on the zone to score it, but I put my Ashen Dawn regiment aggressively forward that the Drake could shoot me and the Fireforge had to move up and shoot me, but I would be in the, like, obscuring terrain, so it would be half shots, hoping that the half shots will reduce damage coming in, and I'll be on the zone, and I'll be in an aggressive position. The thing is that I had 2 more regiments that still needed to come onto the table. I had a unit of Steel Legion and a unit of Crimson Towers.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have just put the Ashen Dawn towing the back end of that zone and just scored it anyway and not been in such an aggressive position. But, like, I have a very aggressive playstyle from War Machine that for Conquest, I kind of have to, like, remind myself that this game goes to turn 10 and not turn 4. Like,
yeah.
So doing my aggressive play style, I moved myself in a very, like, aggressive position of on the zone to score it, as far forward as I could to charge something next turn, and in the terrain. And then the next turn, I rolled for a 4-up charge on a reroll with the flag, and I rolled, like, a 2 and a 3.
Yeah.
So I failed. Moved up off the zone, still in terrain, got shot up, and they went from, like, a bunch of Ashen Dawn to, like, 1 Ashen Dawn, and it was just, and they eventually got murdered because, like, Magma Wizard and all the Drake and the Fireforge and the Double Wizard, and, they just got blitzed on and killed. Yeah. And I got nothing out of that regiment. And that's, like, my big takeaway is I didn't need to be so aggressive at that point in the game because I had nothing to follow up with the Ashen Dawn at that point either.
Mhm.
I could have sat on the edge of the zone, scored the points, waited for the Steel Legion to show up, waited for the Crimson Tower to show up, and then I could have sent all those regiments at my opponent at once. Maybe he still kills the Ashen Dawn, but at least
Yeah.
now I have 2 aggressive regiments in my opponent's face that he has to deal with.
Mhm.
And that's what I ended up doing. Like, I had a unit of Crimson Towers set up on, like, from the previous turn off to the side that eventually charged and killed the Drake, and then I had the Steel Legion like triple march right into the front of the Fire Forge, who started shooting at the Crimson Towers who killed the Drake, and it was kind of like one of those where, but like I could have done it a lot better. So yeah, like, but that's my takeaway instead of like the previous times where I've lost, where it's like I don't know how to play Gilded Legion, like massive bricks, because I don't play massive bricks.
Yeah.
Like, that's not my play style.
Yeah. That's fair. That's yeah, I don't know. I feel like I took a lot away from the last game that we played in terms of how my faction plays, but it's also like a big adjustment because I'm
Playing 5 regiments.
not only that, but like it's a huge shift because most of them are relatively new to me. Like my Thunder Riders so far in the games that I've played, like either they are a game warping threat, but they don't actually get into mix it up and do too much. It's just the presence of them that tends to have an impact on how the game flows, which is certainly valuable. But again, we run into the experience gap that we were discussing moments ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or I play them too aggressively and they get just blipped because they're not really like everybody is saying that D4 hardened is like really resilient, but in my experience, like every faction seems to have a way to throw 32 dice at me.
Oh yeah.
And nothing really seems to like you can have all the defense 4 in the world and it's not going to withstand that ultimately.
There's
So
there's
um
one third of the rolls are going to sneak through and deal damage.
yeah, so you have to what I'm realizing just as a player of Wadroon is that it's like I had such a score advantage too that I really could have just hung back and made you fight me, and I didn't do that because I thought if I was aggressive I could disrupt you and not have to worry as much, but that's obviously not viable.
No, and I in that game we played, it'll eventually be out on the YouTube channel. I don't know which one it's going to be because I still got to edit it.
Mhm.
I've done no editing. I've been basically focused on finishing painting my Ashen Dawn, what I've finally done, and
Yeah.
just getting some games in and doing some other stuff before I really sit down and edit a bunch of stuff. But
Mhm.
in that game, um, I purposely moved back because I was really trying to like think about the stuff I've learned from other players on the internet who have won big events, like talking to
Mhm.
like Carl and Ben, and like how they're doing and how they're winning. And like one of the things that when we were playing that I remembered because I thought about it before we played was the game ends at turn 10, use all your turns.
Yeah.
So I took a step back early on because is like, okay, are you going to be aggressive? Are you not going to be aggressive? If you are aggressive, I'm in a really good spot. If you're not, I can just move up and take more table space and like get
Mhm.
stuff into more positions.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to like ease myself into a more I guess I want to say like a more slower but also like using the table and the train and look at more positioning stuff before it's kind of like go time.
Yeah.
What's like an old fantasy thing because I know watching like old Warhammer Fantasy battle reports like years ago, you would see fantasy players basically like shoot at each other back and forth, and then they would just be really putting their regiments into position, and they'd always be like adjusting position until the point where they were like close enough that someone has to go for it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that mentality that I might have to learn because like I come from a very aggressive game going to a game that like we've had games where they're just like full on hard balls we're just smashing into each other to like okay maybe I can take my time and like really assert my position secure a good portion of the board and just put pressure on, like kind of like passive pressure onto my opponent that just builds.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
and that's why I
sorry,
was
go ahead.
oh sorry. Well, it was just that's why I like let you have those points early on, because I knew if you sent one thing at me, I could just like dogpile onto it, kill it.
Mhm.
And that's a really bad thing for you because I just have more options than you do. I have more regiments.
Yeah. But I mean, if I had been smart, I could have exploited that score gap in the opposite direction, I think, and I didn't do that. So
Yeah.
that's where the game went bad for me. Like, I think the low activation army for Wadroon is a viable playstyle, and it's one that's worth exploring. I don't think it's viable in the sense that it counters a high activation count list, but I think it has its own advantages, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific answer to what I think is going to become the mode in terms of list building for the next little while until there's an adjustment to the rules, which is high activation counts. But I don't know. I think that's the meta of the meta that's springing up from just the circles that we discuss the game in. I don't know necessarily that that's how people are playing it everywhere, but
Well, they're not. Like, there's people still doing weird shit. So there's
yeah.
there's still plenty of game and still plenty of things to play. Like, it's not like the meta's been solved. Oh no, like no, it's not even close. It's just it's really just what we're playing and why we're playing it.
But positioning and setting things up for my own success is something that I struggle with because I have it like, and it's honestly, it's something that you can apply to almost any like game or system that I interact with that has a component of aggression, where my mentality is like get in and do like smash the place up as much as possible so that they don't have a chance to hit you back, which is not necessarily the wrong way to do it, but it's just I have to finesse that approach, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's a tough one, and it's just playing more games, and we'll kind of get to that point.
Yeah, I want to be further along in my development as a player. Like, I forget that I'm playing against people who have years and years of wargame experience, and I'm just barely over my first year of like serious
Hardcore
play.
Thousand
Yeah,
Suns.
yeah. But since so that's a factor. I'm just I get mad because I want to do better than where I'm at, which I guess is maybe ultimately a good attitude to have. But
I don't want to say it's like get mad. I think you have more of like a passion and a goal to get better. I feel at some point we got to do an episode on like tilt and ego and war game stress, because these are all things that come up in the game. Like the game I just played, I started to get tilted and have some stress because my Order of Ashen Dawn just died without doing anything, and we're just killed basically, like lambs to the slaughter. So I was I was pretty pissed off that it happened, but like, I took the moment to like and bring it back, and my opponent was like, "Oh, like calm down, it's okay," and I'm like, okay, thanks, man. Like, this is really nice of him. So it's one of those things where it's like players got to understand it, know about it, have it discussed, and experience it, and then build ways for them to handle it. So I don't know, maybe when we come back next episode, maybe we'll just talk about like stress and ego and tilt and all that, because it's a very good topic in wargame.
yeah, it is. It's something that I definitely. It's a funny one for me to talk about because
you get pumped would be the polite way to say it.
you can definitely, I think, tell where I'm at over the course of the game and everything, and like I do get in the moment like. There's no way to say this in a way that doesn't make me sound bad, but like I definitely have an anger problem, just straight up, just absolutely. It's something that I, have been fighting with for a long time, and it's not that I get like angry when things go wrong for me in the game or whatever, but it's like, you know,
You get
you get that electricity in your blood whether you want it or not, you know.
yeah, you get annoyed very very quickly.
Yeah, it depends. Like, so I think there's two ways. Like, I don't. So I think if it's an honest loss, I feel like I take it better than if things just turn to shit.
So, do you prefer if you lost if it was due to your own strategy and positioning over like you thought you got diced?
Yeah, like I'd rather have because it like yeah, I mean essentially it's I mean one begets the other ultimately, but there's just a different. Sometimes shit just goes terrible in the game, and you're just like, well, fuck this, I'm fucked. Like, you maybe are, like, it starts with, you know, one little mistake, but then, like, a sequence of really good or really bad rolls will just, like, cause that to snowball, and then all of a sudden it's just like, well, this sucks shit. There's nothing good about this. I'm like, you know. But other times, like, I've definitely had games where, like, it's not even that close, and I lose, but I'm not, like, upset about it at all. Like, I feel great at the end of it because it was, like, you know, it didn't feel shitty, like, in whatever way that other games do in some ways. So, like, that definitely... I don't think I'm just a bad sport in my own defense. It's just I think there's certain circumstances that will set me off.
I just muted myself to cough a bunch, but yeah, no, I get that. I get you there. One of the things I learned years ago with War Machine, and I didn't learn this like right away either. Like it's something that you learn when you just play games a lot. You get to a point where it's like, okay, I don't understand why I lost. The dice failed me here at this crucial moment, like, and I needed to succeed. And one of the older like War Machine vets like was talking to me. It's like, why did you have to have dice? Like, why was everything for you to win on one dice roll?
Yeah,
and like it kind of stuck with me of like as I was progressing through the game and like learning it and developing my strategies and everything and like handling all this stuff. Like, why would you put the entire game success and failure into one dice roll where it's like how many things have gone wrong to the point where like the game resides on you getting 10 hits out of 15 dice on threes?
and so that's interesting as well because the counter argument I hear in a lot of high level play is that when two really good players play against one another, it can often really come down to like a supremacy roll and things like that. So it feels like it's a horseshoe in a way.
And yeah, it is. But there's a lot of things you can even do to mitigate that, like charges. Like I try and take, like I would prefer to charge either to just be auto in, a 2 up, a 3 up, and a 4 up to me is a long bomb. If it's 5 or 6, I don't even bother. Like that's and it's like and that ruling has just served me well in this game because charge like getting a successful charge off is so important for you to do damage because like if you can't get to your opponent, you can't do damage to them. Being out of range is the safest spot for you.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and that's the other side of the coin where you can argue that like it shouldn't come down to just one die roll, but it certainly can in some cases. Like even if you've done, you know, like I've made the mistake of not taking banners on units and then thinking that I'm gonna get a 2-up charge no matter what, and well, guess you just didn't.
yeah.
And then now I'm 1 inch up, and you walk your horses into my guys, and they do a big blessed slap on them, and then that's the end of that unit, and now I'm just so like I do my best to like put the blame where it belongs, which is in the flaws in how I played, and like I know that I'm too aggressive, and that's something that I need to work on, but I never do. But at the same time, there are definitely games where something just went unexpectedly so terrible that again it snowballed in a way that like I couldn't. Then I just get the shit kicked out of me for 7 or 10 turns. It's just like, well, that's not great. So I think it's 50-50. Like I think a lot of old or experienced players like they want to make sure that newer players are being accountable for the things that are producing losses for them, which is fair and good. Like I'm not arguing with that at all, but I think sometimes it gets to the point where it's to a fault. Where I think
like what it's too aggressive of like your movement here or like your positioning here was bad, so that's why you lost. It's like, well, that was like slightly out.
So there's like, if for some factions more than others, like it's not possible to play a low risk game. So I think when you are having to engage with a higher risk playstyle, like there's more of a chance that you do have to rely on one or two key actions or die rolls working out a certain way, and to completely ignore that reality, it's just reductive. Like I'm not even criticizing the advice or the ethos as a whole. I think trying to find the balance. You could just say like, oh, just don't take that risk or just whatever, but like again, you'll hit a 1 on that 2+ charge and not have a reroll. Things happen. So I don't know. It's just
yeah, but there's times where it's like I've rolled double 1s on a charge where it was a 2-up.
Yep, exactly.
But also, like I'm just gonna use the game that I just played. Like I could have waited an extra turn, got Steel Legion, got Crimson Towers out, ran up with just a wall of flesh and been like, deal with it. They kill one of the 3 units. I'm still game to kill off Fireforge with Magma Wizard, Drake with Magma Wizard, severely like just basically wiping out my entire opponent's flank at that side. Like it's stuff like that. What I kind of like go back to is like, what else did you have in your arsenal? Because it's not a lot of times. It's not just like what were the steps that led you to that dice roll? Well, I know me trying to roll a 4-up from an Ashen Dawn into a Magma Wizard because I was too aggressive with the Ashen Dawn and I didn't hold them back waiting for my buddies to get there so we could all go up at once. What caused the Ashen Dawn to die for nothing? Because if the Ashen Dawn still died, but then my opponent has Crimson Towers and Steelforge within like 4 inches of their stuff, it's like, okay, now I'm getting charges on things. The Ashen Dawn served a purpose of getting the other regiments there. While me going in with that just one Ashen Dawn, it's like, okay, why did I do that? That wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of the time, like, one of the things like I kind of dislike is like just stats being thrown at each other from different regiments, where it's like in a vacuum, because that's not how the game is played. The game is played the entirety of your list versus the entirety of my list on the table and the scenario presented in front of us.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I get like where I value more just playing the game itself, and like even playing the same lists into each other on different table setups and different scenarios provides still experience and information and knowledge to you to make those decisions. And when you end up like doing that, where you're just playing like the same matchup over and over and over again, you understand it better, and then you can start turning those like something that was maybe like a 30-70 into like a 40-60, and then maybe like a 45-55, or even sometimes you could like go from, I think this is really advantage, to it's actually really not once it hits the table, because it's just, you know, those things will also decide what's going on.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of players don't take that into account, sadly, and it's just like I would love it for people to like, and the thing is, it's really hard to, basically impossible to take that into account, because it's like how are you supposed to visualize some random ass table and scenario and then the entirety of this list versus the entirety of that list? Like, you at that point you just play the game.
Yeah.
So another thing I learned like long time ago was that if you argue back and forth between yourself and another player about like two regiments and how a fight would play out, if it goes like you me, at that point the argument's just going nowhere. You're just going around in circles, and it's just like, put it on the table, let's play.
Yeah.
And I, like, back in War Machine, I actually did that to a guy where him and I were going back and forth about something, and I said, put it on the table. He's like, what? And I'm like, no, we're playing it right now. We're gonna find the answer right now. If this is what you think, then we're gonna play it, and we're gonna find out what happens. And we played it, and he lost.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's maybe, like, yeah, that's what I'm getting at, is like, okay, there's only so much talk you can do. Like, a very, one of the things I tell a lot of people is like, paper to practice. Like, we can talk about paper all you want, but once you get on the table, like, that's where it's like real value is going to come out of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. However, I am glad that, like, you and I have these differing, like, opinions and discussions, because it allows us to, like, talk about them.
Yeah.
Like, in a friendly manner, and not like two weirdos on the internet with knives at each other's throats.
Yeah, I've had a lot of that lately, so this is a welcome break.
Hello, and welcome to BonkTable. I'm Mass, and today my co-host Cassandra is with me.
Hi. I'm Cassandra, and you might be wondering, if you're a longtime listener of this show, podcast, whatever, why does this person sound exactly like Mike? And I will tell you. Mike had to leave very urgently for tax-related reasons, and is probably never going to return to this country in any significant capacity, not for a long time. So I, being a longtime friend of his, offered to take over the podcast on his behalf. So I purchased the rights to his memories, opinions, sense of humor, everything like that. So it's going to be a really seamless transition. So that's why if I talk like him, or we have the same jokes or opinions, that's why. I'm just a professional. So apart from that, the other thing is we at BonkTable are so committed to the comfort of our listeners that we have used an AI powered computer that harmonizes my voice with recordings of Mike's voice. So it costs about $3,000 a day to run, and it is destroying a lake's worth of water over the course of its operation. But for the next 6 months to a year, it's going to provide a seamless transition between Mike's voice and my own for everyone's benefit. So that's the long and short of it. But I never played a war game before this, but I feel like with the information I've been provided with going into this, I still have the basis to provide a lot of useful opinions and analysis, in spite of my complete apathy towards this hobby. So, welcome aboard, Cassandra. Great to be with you here on the podcast, and I'm sorry that this is now the BonkTable with Mass and Cass. That was not anyone's intention.
Our names are so similar now.
Yeah, that's.
I'm just thinking, like, did you buy the rights during the bankruptcy, or did he just get away?
It's
Also, does Canada have an IRS, or like, what's our version of the IRS? This is the
The
Canadian
CRA.
Revenue. Yeah, it's the Canadian
But as I
Revenue
understand, CSIS
Agency.
is involved at this point, so it's a complicated interagency operation. But he's lying low in somewhere in the world. So God bless him and good luck. But it turns out it costs a lot of money to escape your country and its creditors. So that's why this opportunity fell on my lap.
I
And so here we are.
I needed a new co-host quick, and this was the best one I could find.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm just imagining, like, it's like, they're gone. Okay, Pilfler, they're shit. We need money for Canada.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my god. So, do you want to talk about PB News?
Yeah, let's talk about PB News, because I think it's a big day for wargamers everywhere, because it's cloth map time, baby.
Yeah, so we have the Conquest cloth map of oh god, I'm gonna butcher this one too. Alcatria. Is that how you say it?
I'll tell you in a minute.
It's in the PB News section of our BonkTable Discord for you.
So I was already in the eShop. I just wasn't fast enough on the draw. I would say Electria would probably be my stab at that name.
That sounds way better than whatever the fuck I said.
Well,
It is the first continent of Ea. Oh shit, there might be more.
Yeah.
Oh god. Well,
that's good. They didn't pigeonhole themselves.
Yeah, we only got one Pangea ready to go. It's where everyone fights.
Well, I mean, that's what happened in the World of Warcraft, right? Like there was the one continent for the longest time, and then World of Warcraft came out, and they were like, "Oh shit, we need more planets." So, yeah. Bang! I'm sure some World of Warcraft maniac is going to prove me wrong.
Well, do you want me to prove you wrong?
Here we go. Yeah, hit me.
Okay, so.
Okay, smart guy. What about the Frozen North?
No, that was already there.
I guess that was also in 3.
That was in 3. Okay, so here's the thing about 3. They had the idea to make World of Warcraft before they were making 3. They needed to make 3 to tie the story from Warcraft 2 to World of Warcraft. But they were still working on it, so they made 3, and they just had some end goals they just had to kind of achieve. And that's what they did. And then everything else in between was whatever 3 wanted to do. But yeah, they needed the second continent. What kind of like tied into the elves of Silvermoon with the night elves and how they like ran off. The Northrend was already there. Kalandor was really just some unexplored area that no one had gone to, because it was like the time, like, you know how like Columbus was like, I'm gonna go across the sea and go see India, and he's like, I'm in the Indies, and he's in like the Caribbean. There was Pandaria only shows up in the expansion, so it's mentioned, but that didn't become a thing until much later on in World of Warcraft, and it was more like a joke that just kind of kept going, and they made an actual thing.
And that's why we'll get Murder Fish Nomia before this is all over and done with.
I'm hoping so. I'm not gonna lie. I would probably buy Fish Gnomes as like, I'm like, yeah, this faction's a joke, and it might be even stronger good, but I would still laugh every time I played it.
That's the joke that's gonna get us blacklisted by PB. Like all the everything else has been fair play up until that point, but when I'm like, oh well, everything starts as a joke until you psyop it into being real, including the Murder Fish Gnomes. That's what's gonna turn them on us once and for all.
No, actually, I talked to Leandros about it, and he was like super chill about it. Explained why. I had to ask him about the meme of the fish gnomes, and he was like, "No, it was just a joke on the internet, and we just made it part of the community and everything." And same thing with the angry chicken, because everyone is calling the Apex the angry chicken. And so I kind of bothered him a little bit about having a fish gnome factions, because there's like the Cthulhu Famine faction, and even if the fish gnomes aren't like the whole deal, just having like a light of like fast fish gnomes running around, that'd be kind of cool. So like maybe it'll be in the works in like 5 to 10 years, but who the fuck knows?
That's fair.
Yeah. So this map, as our PB news, releases on the 22nd and 23rd of December. Blah blah blah. It is 35 and a half inches by 48 inches. So this thing is actually quite big.
Yep.
It is also $40 Canadian. So it's actually also quite cheap for how big it is.
For a cloth map, not
Yeah.
bad. I
don't buy cloth maps, so to me this sounds like a great deal, but if you do, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're obviously, I'm not a big cloth map buyer, but okay, kind of. I'm gonna get to that in a second. Lately, I haven't bought a lot of cloth maps, so I don't know what the economy of cloth maps is right at the moment. But I will say, when I when I was a kid, these are my memories that I personally have had, of course, as we discussed. Not that I did not purchase them from somebody else anymore. Now I have to deny that legally. These are my own memories. I bought the Dark Sun, I obtained the Dark Sun box set. It was like for second edition.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and Dark Sun was always my favorite D&D setting as a kid. My own personal memories. It came with cloth maps of Athos. God, that kicked ass. That went right up on my wall, and I thought that was really cool. It wasn't. That's not a cool thing to do when you're a preteen kid, but at the time, I was like, hell yeah.
I think my dad was getting annoyed at me because I didn't have any, like, posters of, like, sexy car babes up on my wall or anything. And I just had, like, World of Warcraft posters and, like, what else did I have? I had Scott Pilgrim, I had World of Warcraft, I had some meme posters for some shit. Yeah, and that was, like, really it that I can really recall.
Yeah.
Or no, also I had like fan art drawn of like League of Legends characters.
Oh
wow. What else did I have? I had some other shit. I think I had Conan the Barbarian as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So there was stuff like that, and my dad was. But he eventually.
Conan lover.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, because I'm so brain poisoned for Conan Exiles, I always like to acknowledge how much I love Conan and how much I love the Conan mentality.
The big Wang experience. That's all I remember from that game is just like the size of the Wang.
You can definitely get some big hogs in that game for sure. But what I like is just the pessimistic, destructive spiral of violence that consumes everything, and it's just like, who has the grit to fight over nothing for the longest? God, I love that. Anyway,
it's truly a wasteland, just like Dark Sun. Were you murdering people and then turning their bones into swords and armor because you had nothing?
Yeah,
that's why you play Conan Exiles, because you just want to relive Dark Sun.
In a sense, like, actually, you've probably made a connection that I wouldn't have on my own with that. But yeah, I think there's some truth to that. Like, I really love just like pessimistic, desolate settings. So. But anyway, cloth maps are really fun. Was my point. This looks like a nice one. I think if you were doing like now that there's campaign rules again, this would be fun to have. Or if you're just a big fan of either Conquest or just screen printed cloth, looks like a nice one.
I should buy this right now. Where the hell's my wallet? Fuck it. I'm gonna own one of these.
Damn.
It's downstairs. Fuck.
Just like that.
Well, I want one, because then I'm gonna like put it up on my wall in the basement, or maybe in the computer. There's like this big fucking area in my computer room that doesn't have any pictures or anything. Like, I have my computer and my desk and everything. They got my family in front of me and my fucking degrees and all my weird shit. And then behind me, I have cool shit. So behind me there is, I'll try and talk to this, but there's like this old brass kind of picture of two gladiators in the Colosseum fighting half naked, and then there is a Dark Souls, like a fan art to Dark Souls and all the like Dark Souls 1 through 3 made by a local Winnipegger.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and those are like the only two cool things. Oh, sorry, there's also fuck it, over the girlfriend's desk there's a Bucciarate from JoJo's that she calls her husband. And then I have Hisoka, who hides behind the door, and it's the pervy one. If you know who Hisoka is, I'm not going to say the show. You will know what it's about.
Well, yeah. You know what? I'm gonna have to Google that after this. But
now I'm gonna. Just to find out what happens,
to say the least.
Okay, cool. It doesn't actually come up with anything really relevant of how bad it could be. It's not even that bad. It's totally just like, whatever. We're not gonna get into it. Anyway. Yeah, those are the. But I have this big space I could slap the poster on and be like, look at it. Or I guess the cloth map.
A cloth map is just if you think about it, a really nice poster. So
yeah, it could also be doubled as a blanket if you get cold. Things like 4 feet anyway.
I'm into that sort of thing. Like, I think if they made a map of Ia, cloth like a
blanket
duvet, I'd buy it.
For a queen size bed. You're like, yes, the map of Ia duvet.
Yeah, I mean, a queen size would be fine, but they could make it in a bigger size as well. There's some people in this world who have giant beds for one reason or another, and then might need a duvet that covers all that. So,
Hear that, Parabellum? We need the Conquest certified trademarked blankets. Get those out for everybody.
Yeah, maybe if it was custom for a heart-shaped bed, that would really help some people out who want a V-shaped duvet. I'm just spitballing. I'm just,
I feel like
ideas out there.
I feel at some point we need to go to Vegas. So there's the heart-shaped beds in Vegas.
Oh my god. I don't. That's like in my heart, that's where I want our attending a tournament journey to take us. But in the other more rational part of my heart, I'm like, well, that's a place where you specifically as a person could ruin your life so easily in so many ways. And then a third part of me is like, yes, do that. So you can understand the complicated situation that I'm reckoning with even internally with respect to whether to go to Adepticon or LVO.
They're pretty close to each other. We'll start with Adepticon.
Are they?
We'll figure it. Well,
I have no sense of where things are in America.
Location-wise, they are not very close together. Adepticon is in Chicago. LVO is in Las Vegas. Time-wise, they're actually very close to each other because Adepticon is in March. LVO is in January.
Oh yeah.
So there's a timeline thing where it's like, man, we can hit these up pretty quick. But yeah. Let's start with Adepticon and see if we even survive that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if I can make it an entire day playing a tournament in hard mommy cosplay,
I'm gonna go get one of
those for me.
I'm just gonna get one of those inflatable dino suits and just run around the entire convention like that with my brains being fried because I'm just gonna be overheated.
Yeah. That's the spirit.
Yeah. Commit to the act.
Yeah. Free promotion for Parabellum that they didn't ask for and don't want.
Yeah. Should we get on to a rule of the week?
Yeah, I guess we should actually talk about the game for a bit.
Okay, so I never mentioned the topic. We're talking about Magic today. So the rule of the week is Wizard X.
Wizard X is also my rap name, incidentally.
Oh my
you can check
God.
me out on SoundCloud. Yeah. SoundCloud.com/WizardX, which is actually going to go to somebody's SoundCloud who isn't me, because I didn't bother to vet this joke, and now some very minor musician is going to get a 3-listener bump on our dime. So.
Oh shit! There's an actual Wizard X.
Of course there is. It's. I'm not a betting woman, but if I was, I would have wagered that there was some kind of a musician named Wizard X. Okay. Not making any assumptions about genre, but are they good? What do they make?
Okay, so no, the author is Wizard. The song's called Wizard X Yen -3 Kings. 9 years ago, it's trap music.
I'm so intrigued.
Okay, here I'll send you a link. This is we have totally gone off topic.
Whoops. Anyway,
There you go. We'll
if nobody's just called Wizard X, I'm going to be dropping an EP under that name in the next 3 months. So keep an eye out for that. But in the context of the game, Wizard X is a special rule that a regiment or character stand can perform the spellcasting action during its activation. The X value is the stand's magic level. See page 80. If the regiment or character stand does not have any spells available, then it only counts towards enemy interference.
Yay! I don't know really what to say about this rule because it basically it just allows you to cast spells, what we are going to get into for the rest of the episode.
We have a real kink for making a rule of the week out of just a rule that's required for the game to function and is only a special rule in terms of its like the technical space that it occupies in the rule document. It's sort of like inspired, you know. It's just like,
oh my god,
oh okay, I see what you did there. Like,
well,
you need to have the wizard special rule, but it's not the same as like Flurry. It doesn't have the same game impact as that. But anyway, sorry, you were about to say.
Oh no, can I read out the other one, because we're gonna be talking about magic. We might as well include my rap name, Priest X.
Damn.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a hell of an EP.
I should release an EP as Priest X, and it'll just be like the word of Haziel. I'll be like, that bitch rained fire down upon the weavers.
And then I'll drop a track as Wizard X that's just like calling you out and insulting you.
Perfect.
Yeah. Impugning your ability to rap.
My ability to rap is terrible, but we will try it. Oh my god, we could be huge in the music industry as like this feud between Priest and Wizard X.
Yeah, exactly. That's
we both can't.
I mean, a good rap beef really can define two artists' careers, as we've seen play out time and time again in this rap game. I know you and I both hold so dear.
Yeah, all I know about rap is never challenge Eminem, or he will Slim Shady your ass back to oblivion.
Oh, I could beat him in a battle rap, no problem.
Oh my god! Oh god! No!
I would just simply out-rap him.
He's gonna name a song that's just gonna be called "Wizard X Destruction: The Fall of Caspia," or what is it? Is it Caspia or Capitalist, or whatever the stupid main town in Old Dominion is?
Capitus.
Is it Capitus? Yeah, the fall of Capitus, and you'll just get destroyed as Wizard X.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You gotta, play big, or what's the point, right?
Yeah. So for the Priest X special rule, it is literally the same thing as the Wizard X special rule, except changing Wizard to Priest.
Got him.
Yeah. Yeah, these rules are just there so that the wizard can perform spells, and it states, like, if you have no spells, you count as enemy interference. Oh, I guess we gotta talk about enemy interference in this episode as well.
I mean, we do, but I feel like that's part of the spellcasting section, so we're still good
when we get to magic. I do want to talk about that, because like there are some characters that don't have spells but can take Arcane 1 for their retinue. What gives them the wizard wizard or priest X special rule. And there's actually this really weird interaction that I discovered the other day, is that wizards can't wear armor. It'll actually give you a bug in the army builder if you're trying to put armor on them. However, a priest can wear armor. But when you click on Arcane 1, you are now a Wizard X or Priest X. Except, it doesn't let you pick if you want to be a wizard or a priest. So you get like Wizard +1 or Priest +1. For clarification. Because if you're already an existing wizard or priest, you want that bonus so that you can cast your spells. So, but if you're like the Imperial Officer and can take an Arcane Retinue for some ungodly reason, and you want an Elysium Fragment, because that's basically what you're doing with it, because wizards have some heirlooms trapped behind them. If you take the wizard, you no longer can wear armor, but if you took the priest, you could, but it doesn't let you differentiate them, so it'll give you this bug, so it's kind of like something weird going on with, like, army builder or how that rule is applied to a character who's not traditionally a wizard or a spellcaster. I'm really gonna lump or use wizard and priest like very interchangeably. And when I need to separate them, like in this instance of like a wizard can wear armor and a priest can wear armor and a wizard can't, that's when I'll make that separation. But that's really the big one between like wizard and priest is, can you wear clothes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like just a naked wizard running around.
Yeah, I'm literally like racking my brains for things I can add that won't have the podcast lewdness police come and beat me to death. But like slutty ass wizards just can't put anything on.
That's why the chapter mage looks like the way she does.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
the
titty window.
The full. Well, is it well endowed? I don't know like how you talk about that.
I think you pretty much nailed it. She's definitely putting her strongest assets forward, so to speak.
Yeah, you get too close, she'll fire dart you. But if you're nice, you might get nope, I don't want to say that one. Get a lap pillow, and she might cry her tears on you, healing you.
It's unfortunate that that's the model, because I really wanted to invoke that meme where it's like a picture of like a shirtless guy, and it's like
just a crazy old man
cover up slut or whatever. And it's funny because obviously it's juxtaposed onto a guy or whatever, because I was in my head imagining like a guy wizard, and that's pretty funny overall. To me, anyway. But then when I think about the lady wizard who's actually in the game with her titty window outfit, and it's like, well, all of a sudden the joke hits quite different in that situation. Yeah. So, whoops.
I should add a retinue for the arcane one where it's like a homeless guy, but he has like a blanket or like a towel or something, and he's just like reaching over to like try to cover it or something, and like that's the bonus. Like, there's my retinue guy.
That's a pretty funny idea for retinue, actually. I think if somebody holding like a modesty garment over the
just the retinue is just a house. Oh my god,
that'd actually be sick if you roll up and put your command stand down. And it's just like just a little to scale cottage,
and like all the models are in there, just like chilling.
Yeah. Just be like, well, they're in there. It's glued down, but they're in there.
Oh, the door opens, and it's just like, look, you can see in. And they're just all like having tea or something.
Fuck, that's the BonkTable challenge. Is somebody who's better at doing miniatures than me do that, and the prize is, I'll be impressed.
I'm working on swag. I'll just give you free swag if you do that. If you can. If someone can get,
if you can make the 100 Kingdoms cottage,
yeah, for the chapter mage, if you can get, so the cottage, okay, so the cottage has to fit on the regular stand with the 4 bases. Each of the characters has to, the chapter mage and her 3 retinue people got to be on the base, and the cottage has to encompass them, and then the door has to open so you can see in. And there has to be a table where they're having tea. Those are the requirements. If you build that and send it to me, you can send it to me on the Discord. You can either make it public or you can DM me. I will send you a BonkTable patch for free. I'll pay for all the shipping and everything. You just have to, like, if you do it, I'll be like, hey, you won. You're the first one who did it. I love it. I'll send you a patch. And maybe even if other people do it, I'll just send them patches as well. Because we're doing swag. I'm literally picking them up December. So once I get I'm getting 100 of them, I'll just send them out to people. If you can do
Holy
that.
Smokes.
This offer
I'm going to stow one on my battle foam bag.
This offer...
If I win one.
Yeah. Well, you get one for fucking free. I'm just going to give you one.
That one was going to slide past you, honestly.
No. This offer ends, let's say, the new year. So, I don't know when this fucking episode's going to come out. Hold on, let me check.
New year, old me. No prize.
This episode, I believe, comes out on December 1st. I get the patches on, like, the 2nd. So, yeah. you have a whole month until January 1st to submit your cottagecore goth chapter mage tea party kit bash to BonkTable. You will get a BonkTable patch, and yeah, that's it. There we go. I made it official. Send them in. I'd love to see them.
Great. It's I love watching just an offhanded remark spin up into a promotional contest. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Like, okay, here's the thing about those. If I have the ability and power to do it, I will gladly do it. Like, it builds community, it builds people want to be interested in a thing. Like, if people don't do it, people don't do it. If people do it, great. If there's nothing like I'm not losing anything. I'm literally buying these patches to give away to people. Like, people we know in the Discord, people who have helped out BonkTable, locals who've done stuff for BonkTable. Like, this is not like, this is more like me just giving back to the community, and if the community does something cool, it should be rewarded.
I'm just in it to see cottages.
Yeah, really, like, yeah, it's the
just
cottage
cute
core.
little, just cute little houses.
Yeah. Also, you don't even have to paint the cottage, but if you do, that'd be sweet too.
You do have to.
No.
Mass is lying. You have to paint the cottage.
No. Just dipped in a bucket of stain.
Yeah. We're never going to talk about magic.
No. Well, now we're going to talk about magic. I've already closed down the tab. We're now onto magic. Chapter 9. Bankruptcy. I mean, magic.
It's chapter 11. Not that.
What is there a chapter 11 in this? Oh god.
No, but there is in the American tax code.
Yeah. Wasn't there was another chapter 11 bankruptcy, and there's another chapter I think it's 20 bankruptcy. There's 2 different types of bankruptcy.
Unfortunately, the guy with a lot of tax problems isn't here anymore, so that's everything that he's learned since then. I don't have the rights to, so I couldn't speak to specifically, but
perfect.
Yeah, I've unfortunately expended the extent of my knowledge up to this point.
All right.
Let's talk about magic.
Yeah. I'm kind of just going to read this out verbatim, or as best as I can, with my gargled words that I produce out of my mouth. And then what am I going to say? And then I guess we're going to go over spells and different factions, how you use spells, different artifacts and heirlooms that affect your spells, different retinue and what they kind of do, and things you should be looking for. And we'll get into the tactics and strategies and things you can do with magic and against magic and all that stuff. But the first step of magic is understanding, how does magic work? You ready?
I am. Okay. I think. I hope so. Let's just go for it.
All right. So, chapter 10 magic. Scroll down. Spellcasting. Okay. The casting of spells is governed by a unique spellcasting action. Is a character stand with the Wizard X or Priest X special rule, although some rules may allow regiments to do so as well, so I guess we'll talk about those guys at some point. Where X represents the spellcaster's magical competency or magical aptitude. Magic is usually the domain of characters, but occasionally a regiment has access to one or more spells. Regardless of whether a character stand or regiment is performing it, all spellcasting actions follow the same rules. We'll discuss more in later. So, talking about spells, the number of spells available to any given wizard or priest is detailed in the army list entry. Purchasing upgrades giving access to additional spells does not grant additional raw power, only a wider variety. There we go, said it. All spells available as well as their effects are detailed in their faction's army list. Okay, cool. So, we'll just kind of break down spells here. So, the first part of the spell profile is the range. So this is the maximum range of the spell in inches. If the range of the spell is given as self, the spell can only target the regiment of the spellcaster is currently attached to, and will often have an effect on the whole regiment. So I don't know if it tells you where you measure the range from. It might actually, but we'll keep going, and if it doesn't, then I'll come back to it because there is something we need to talk about. Next is the attunement. Represents the difficulty of casting a spell. A spell with a lower attunement value is harder to cast, so as you know, when playing a game of Conquest, rolling low is good, except for charging. So if a spell attunement value is 2, you need to roll your X on your wizard or priest, and you gotta roll as many of those dice, that number lower. So let's say your attunement is 2, your wizard 6, you grab 6 dice, you roll your 6 dice, you count how many how many of those dice are below 2. If you have 2 or more successes, your spell is successful, unless otherwise stated, because there's a couple of them that need a couple more successes for various reasons. But 9 times out of 10, that's all you need to do, and then your spell goes off, and that's what the attunement value is. And sometimes people get a little confused about that, where they're like, I'm a wizard 6, but my attunement is 4, so do I roll 4 dice? No, you roll your 6 dice for your wizard or priest value, and the number you're looking for on those dice is that number or lower. Next we got scaling. Scaling's kind of weird. There's a chart here that helps. It's really nice, and I forget it all the time. So scaling, certain spells are marked as scaling. These spells are harder to cast when affecting a large number of stands. So if it says scaling, I might just go to here's the chart. You need more successes for more stands. So if there's 1 to 4 stands, you need 0 additional successes. If there's 5 to 7, you need 1 more additional success. 8 to 9, 2 additional success. 10 plus 3 or more additional successes. So if I have 12 stands of Gilded Legion, and I cast Fog Cloud on it from a Chapter Mage onto them, and it's attunement 3, so I'm a Wizard 6, I need 2 successes, but because it's 10 plus stands, I will need an additional 3 successes. Out of my 6 dice, I need to roll 5 dice with 3 down. So it gets a little tougher to get your spells off on larger regiments.
Kind of. I mean,
there's a couple ways we can manipulate that.
Yeah.
Then lastly, on the spell profile, we have the effect, and these are the effects that result from a successful cast of the spell. There's an example. It says sample spell, but this is exactly this reads like this is just was it Fire Dart from the Chapter Mage? Is exactly what that is. So it's got the name, it's got the range, it's got the attuned value, and it's in the effect. So it says sample spell, range 16, attunement 3. The effect is inflict 1 hit per success on target enemy regiment. These hits have the armor piercing 2 special rules. So if you cast a spell, you roll your 6 dice. Let's say you get 3 downs, you would deal 3 damage at armor piercing 2 towards the enemy regiment. Perfect. So we got spellcasting in or out of combat actions. So to perform a spellcasting action, the spellcaster must have 1 or more spells. The wizard X or priest X special rule. The action is resolved as follows. So before we get to this, I want to mention that if you are casting from a character, so if you have the Theist Priest or the Chapter Mage in a regiment of, let's hear what we go. We have the Chapter Mage in a regiment of Merc Crossbows. You would cast spells when you draw the character's card. You wouldn't cast spells when you draw the Merc Crossbow card, because the spell casting is happening from the character. When you have a regiment that is a spellcaster, let's say the Ice Jotnar, you would cast your spells when you draw his card because he is the one doing the casting. So that's something you kind of have to understand. It might explain that specifically, it might be in character actions earlier in the book that characters cast spells when you draw their cards, but I'm just making that clear now so that people understand it better. So you choose a spell and target. You select one of the available spells to cast, the regiment you wish to target. Spells that cause hit require the character stand to draw a line of sight to its target, while all other spells do not. In either case, choose a target within range of the spell. Additionally, when the spellcaster or the regiment may have joined is engaged with an enemy regiment, the regiment is the only regiment they may target with spells that cause hits. Spells with a range of self can only target the spellcaster's own regiment. This one's actually really important in how you interact with spells and use your spells. So when you measure the range of a spell, let's say you're throwing that fire dart out at an enemy regiment from your character stand, you measure from your character stand for the closest point on your character stand to the closest point on the enemy regiment. Your line of sight gets really weird because line of sight is determined by the regiment. So the regiment's front arc is what the character can see in the front, but you also, when you're targeting someone, have to measure from the center of the character's the frontage, the center of their frontage on their stand towards the enemy regiment. So there may be times where the regiment can see an enemy regiment because you use their front arc of the regiment, but the character itself can't see the enemy regiment because it's being blocked by an obstruction or something, or another regiment in the way. So that's a really weird one you got to watch out for when you're casting spells, because it kind of uses two different lines of sight that you got to check. Like, first you check if the enemy regiment that you're targeting, the enemy regiment you're targeting is in the front arc of the regiment, and then you got to check that the character can draw a line of sight to the target, and then you measure from the closest point on the character stand to the enemy stand. So it's a little weird there, and it's a big one that people got to understand and know when they are starting to get into spellcasting, because I don't cast a lot of spells when I play Conquest. It's mostly because my wizards aren't that great, but if you play a lot of Dweghome, you are going to be casting a lot of spells. What other faction casts a lot of spells? Cassandra?
I don't know. If you run a Scion for Wadrun, you're going to see a bit of spellcasting. Nords, actually, they usually have quite a bit of spellcasting.
Yeah, Nords. Old Dominion has a bunch of spellcasting. Yeah. Another one here for choosing targets that I want to bring up is that friendly casting does not require line of sight. You only have to check if you're in range. So you can actually turn around, like, you're not going to physically, like, turn the regiment around, but you can cast friendly buff spells onto guys behind you, outside of your line of sight. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You just have to check the range. So that's really nice. And it's something I didn't pick up on until quite a while into playing Conquest, and as I got into spells more and really read the rules, because you can kind of skim over it quickly if you read it too fast and don't really look at it.
Yeah.
So those are two big ones about spellcasting and targeting that I really wanted to bring attention to, just because it does matter and it is important how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So, roll for success. A spellcaster rolls a number of dice equal to the X value as shown by the Wizard X or Priest X special rule. Each result equal to or lower than the spell's attunement is a success. You must score at least 2 successes for the spell to be resolved, unless stated otherwise. However, some spells are harder to cast as determined by scaling. Okay, so we've kind of already talked about that one, and that's fine.
Well, so one thing I want to touch on, though, is just, and this is just amusing to me more than anything else, but in 1.5, I'm pretty sure it was just 1 success to cast a spell.
It sure was.
Yeah, and so I remember, I just want to make sure that I was remembering that correctly after the procedure. But, so 2 is now what it is, and I remember going from 1.5 to 2.0, part of the thing where they were like, well, we're really going to reevaluate spellcasting and change things up a bunch, and I think everybody really, cast their own hopes onto that, and then the net difference between 1.5 and 2.0 is it takes 2 successes to cast the spell successfully, and I just thought that was really funny to see that happen in execution. It says it doesn't really matter.
No.
It was just funny to me. Anyway, we can move on to enemy interference. You were going to say?
Well, the thing about roll for success is if you really want a wizard to succeed,
they just will.
Yeah, there's tons of extra heirlooms, retinue, masteries, artifacts, and shit you could put on a wizard where you basically never fail your roll to succeed the spell. The only time you're failing rolls is if you do what I do when I take wizards, because I put too little upgrades into them and don't make them like a powerhouse wizard, because I don't make my wizards a powerhouse wizards because they're not getting as much out of them as other factions are getting out of their wizards. So
Yeah.
like, what's the point of putting more upgrades towards them to be more accurate or hit with a spell that's just not that great?
Yeah.
Um, while other factions, just Dwight Home's the really easy one because they have a supremacy which gives them 2 spell casting. Like, you want all those buffs because you're going to be casting a lot more spells than a lot of other factions. Yeah. So you're always going to be successful. Like, it's just, while for myself, when I play like a chapter mage or a Theist priest, it's kind of like, why did I put all these points into a wizard and I'm not really like getting as much out of it for the same cost, kind of thing. So it's like, so that's why I find like I will fail my rolls is like, I'll just give Arcane 1, what gives you +1 wizard level to a chapter mage. So I'm rolling 6 dice and I'm looking for 2 successes and I'll still fail. Oh, it happens way too many times. Yeah, you have seen me do it.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is enemy interference. So this is actually a pretty big one, and it gets kind of like really funny when 2 players are running like a bunch of wizards and priests, because if a spellcaster or the target of their spell is within 10 inches of an enemy regiment or character stand with the Wizard X or Priest X special rule, while performing a spellcasting action, they suffer a -1 penalty to the spell's attunement value, representing the disruptive effects of their opponent. A spellcaster is defined as any stand with the Wizard X. Okay, blah, blah. So this gets really funny if you're running like 4 wizards versus your opponent's 4 wizards. And everyone is now used to be attunement 3, and they're casting spells at regiments that were within 10 inches of like an opponent's wizard or within 10 inches of a wizard. And now everyone's attunement 2. You'll see a lot more failures at that point.
Yeah.
And it's usually like where more common failures happen. But another problem is, why are the wizards within 10 inches of each other?
Yeah. Things have probably gotten weird at that point.
Yeah, it's quite funny when it's like, oh, the wizards got real close. But also you got to remember the target of your spell is also within 10 inches of a friendly wizard. So one of their friendly wizards. So the opponent could have a wizard like 20 inches away from you. The regiment you're targeting is between 10 inches in front of your opponent's wizard and within 10 inches of your wizard. So that's also happening whenever they would get that bonus. So the wizards can be far away just by how that 10 inches measurement goes on.
Yeah.
Another big thing I want to bring up here is that this rule does not stack. So if you have 4 wizards and they're all within your spellcaster, so you got 4 enemy wizards and you got a spellcaster, you don't go from attunement 4 to 0. Like, you just can't cast spells. You're only affected by the -1 penalty once. I believe that's been cleared up by the developers. There's probably a dev errata in the BonkTable Discord under the developer errata channel. But it might just need to be clarified a little bit in here just to just have it stated. But yeah, that's what's going on there. So it's like, you can't just like throw wizards at your opponent's super wizard to be like, you're now attunement -2, eat a dick.
Sorry, buddy, you're not getting one through the wizard wall.
Yeah. Cast protection. All right.
I think what's funny though is like, okay, this language doesn't exist anywhere except in my own mind, but 4+ characters is at that point a super friends list in my head. And so like, if you think about the upfront cost of running 4 wizards or priests in a list, like not even with regiments to house them and things like that, you're already like at least 400 points in the hole. It's just not feasible I don't think you could make, even if you were to get that sweet shutting down somebody else's wizard entirely, like if that was even possible within the framework of the rules, it would be so point inefficient to get there that it's extremely hilarious to me in any scenario.
There are battle reports where you and I have played games, you as Nords, myself as 100 Kingdoms, where I threw 4 wizards at you. It was 2 chapter mages and 2 theist priests.
Yeah, I don't remember. I was probably like way worse at the game then. But
It also,
I don't know. 4 characters is tough to actually make
yeah,
work in general.
it's something.
I've thought about it with Dream the way they are now, but it's tough.
100, well, I get away with it at 100 Kingdoms just because of the cheapness of the characters. Like, the Chapter Mage is 80 points and the Theus Priest is 90. And you can just go get Arcane 1 on all these guys, so it's like 90 plus 90 is 180. 100 plus 100 is 200 plus 180 is 380 for 4 characters with Arcane 1. Not bad. And then you put on like Merc Crossbows and Militia Bowmen that are 75 points and 105. Like, you can do it. They're not going to take a hit, but they can be around.
Yeah.
Like, it's there. But it's do you take a bunch of cheap wizards that may or may not do anything and then you feel like you've wasted the wizard, or do you go take a powerhouse wizard that is getting shit done every turn? And that's kind of like the question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, up to a point. Well, no, it's difficult to hit that point just with the way the point breaks actually work in the game, but I think in 2.0 currently, honestly, putting a bunch of points into character upgrades is generally not the move. Like, there are certain situations where you have to put at least some amount of upgrades in, or where it is advantageous to focus on that. But I think for the most part, tooling out characters can quite often be. I know it gets talked about in the Nords side of thing a lot because the Conaneer really wants you to pump a bunch of shit into him, but
He wants to take all the
in reality, you don't want to do that because you're putting a lot of eggs into one basket in a very expensive way, and you're cutting down your potential in terms of other regiments that you can take and stuff. Like, spending 20 or 30 points on on a character upgrade is one thing, but once you are spending 50 or 60 points, like, you're really like getting into that, or more than that, which you can easily do with a lot of characters, it starts to feel like, well, okay, now I'm like actually just not taking one less regiment over this. Is this really going to deliver more value for me than just an MSU of extra bodies on
the table? Yeah, no, there is
on the floor when you let the bodies hit the floor. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. But go ahead.
No, like, and that gets into like characters and kind of what's the best route, because there are some characters that I truly believe like you should pay the premium for the character to do the thing because they're just that good. Like Dwag sorcerers, like especially a fire wizard, you can cut a little bit of the upgrade juice on the magma wizard, but having those bonuses to get them to work to be consistent every turn is just so beneficial to you. And because Dwag castles very well to keep all your stuff safe. Castling is the concept where you build a castle and it's very hard for people to get in. Dwag are very good at it. I've explained this better on other episodes. But because you can keep the wizard safe and the unit in, like the Fireforge he'll sit in, or on the Drake, you could keep them safe. They could keep popping off spells and doing work and doing damage, while other wizards like the Theus Priest, who can just sit in a unit of militia, if you take an MSU of militia, they die to just plink shooting. Like,
yeah.
But because it's like, well, I don't want to spend a ton of points into the regiment because I just want the wizard to run around and do his job. What is the Theus Priest casting? Holy Fire, give me a blast, or whatever he's doing. But I also don't want his regiment to just die. But militia just die. So then you're now spending more points to get a big brick of militia, but now you have this 6 to 8 stand block of militia. What's a massive tail onto a priest? Okay, well now you need to start doing something with it, but it's still the kitty carrier of the priest. Like, it kind of starts becoming this weird dichotomy of, can the character benefit so much from these upgrades that they are doing a ton of work, and can you keep them safe? And there's factions that get away with it and do it. Dwag is a great example. And there's other factions where it's like, no. If I take a bunch of militia bowmen with a Theus Priest and I use them as back-end scoring and I just want to bless stuff, I don't really need to have all those upgrades. He can just take Arcane 1 and send the back and do that. If I want to bring him forward to be within 10 inches to cast Holy Fire, and I want to be accurate with Holy Fire, well, I need to start looking at Focused. I need to start looking at Arcane 1. Maybe I want to take all the way to Arcane 3. I might want to take some other upgrades and start Holy Firing stuff, but now I'm within 10 inches of my opponent, and a lot of guns are between range 14 and 18.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm taking all these upgrades and I'm still not getting anything out of it. Like, and that's why I believe it really gets into like how you choose and upgrade your character. Like, I'm very much for more, if I'm taking upgrades for the character, I want them to affect the regiment the character's in, so that the regiment itself is better than I do if I want to make I want to make the character better. And this is totally pulling away from like Magic and Wizards and all that, but it still affects them because it kind of gets into like why you would take certain upgrades for different factions, and they're going to have different reasons. Like, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to mention actually this kind of dovetails with the point that you're making in its way. But so they changed with the most recent revisions focused around the Nords and Spires and whatnot. They changed Focused. It used to be an arcane, like you used to have to take arcane retinue upgrades to unlock Focused, which limited its value, but now it's a slightly more expensive upgrade that you can just take. And it lets you reroll 2 failed spellcasting die rolls when you're doing a spellcasting action. So I would say if you're running a spellcaster and you have the points to spare and it's available to you, you should almost always take Focused, because it will pretty much turn your spells into auto successes, which is, I think, maybe a problem with the overall design of Magic at this point in the game. But, when in Rome, take Focus.
Like, a very easy wizard to take if you want to be successful is just Tier 1 Arcane, 10 points for that +1 Wizard or Priest. Focus for 15 for 25 in total. Done. That's it.
Yeah.
While
I mean, even
instead of going down like tier 1 Arcane to Tier 2, what is 20 points for the scaling difference, what not a ton of people use. What the hell? Why is Blessed on Tier 2 for... What the fuck? And then Tier 3, it's another 15 points to turn one of your failed into success. I feel we're almost done the spell casting, but like now we're talking about this. Yeah. Why the fuck is Blessed on Tier 2? I've never noticed this before.
Where, on which faction?
This is I'm just in 100 Kingdoms looking at the Arcane. And Tier 2 says this character stand counts as regiment as 2 less stands for the purposes of scaling. And then it has the Blessed special rule underneath, but it doesn't say you gain Blessed. What the hell is going on? Is this in other stuff too, or is this like a weird thing with the desktop app? Spires would not have a wizard. Never mind. Go to the next guy.
Sorry, that was under which character that you saw that?
100 Kingdoms under the Theist Priest.
That's interesting, and that's under Arcane
2.
2?
Yeah, I'm checking other factions.
See that one. Like, when I look at the rule, it just says this character stands as 2 less stands for the purposes of scaling. I'm going to try selecting it here.
Okay, see, so it doesn't appear for the other factions. I'm just checking again if it pops up.
Yeah, it's not showing up for me at all.
Okay, then maybe the desktop thing is bugged, but
yeah,
it's had issues in the past. But back to the actual topic and like upgrades and stuff for your character. Yeah, like I view more value of taking upgrades onto a character that benefit the regiment, like for 100k. Banner, Armor Dominion, Standard of Steel, on Imperial Officer, any unit Steel Legion or Gilded Legion just makes them tankier. Oliphane's Roar, Tip of the Lance on a Mounted Noble Lord and a big buff bust of Household Knights just makes them better at damage and accuracy. Like, I'm taking those things because if the character dies, it usually means the regiment's dead, and so then I'm no longer, like, I don't care if I'm no longer missing out on those things because the regiment that I was using them on is also dead.
Yeah.
While if it was like a character who's supposed to be doing work and really isn't, it's just kind of like, yeah, no, you're not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna keep going on the spellcasting actions.
Mm-hmm.
So the next part is scaling. Not all spells are equal. Some, usually those that conjure. What the fuck is this word? Exotic. This is an exotic. This is.
Conjure esoteric effects.
Is it? Oh, it's esoteric. Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Esoteric effects, rather than inflict damage, are harder to cast if there are more stands are present in the target regiment. This is represented by the scaling attribute listed beneath the scaling attunement. If the spell has scaling, it might require more than 2 successes. Okay, so I've kind of talked about this earlier on, where it's like 1 to 4 is 0 additional, 5 to 6 is 1 additional, 8 to 9 is 2, 10 plus is 3. Probably should print this little thing out and put it in your bag with you, just so that you remember, because this is a thing that pops up every once in a while, and it's really nice to just have available.
Yeah.
I should do it too. Furthermore, when targeting a monster regiment with a scaling spell, the spellcaster requires 1 additional success. If your spellcaster does not score the total required number of successes, the spellcasting action fails, and the action ends. Otherwise, proceed to resolve the effects of the spell as well as any subsequential steps. There we go, I can say words. Alright, resolving spells. Assuming you have scored the total required number of successes, resolve the effects of your spell and described under the effects of the spell. If the spell infects hits, your opponent now makes any defense rolls, resolves casualties, and tests morale. Spell casting from the target's flank or rear do not benefit from the flank and rear attack rules. Otherwise, unless otherwise stated, spells normally last until the end of the round. If a spellcaster is removed for any reason before it is able to activate again, the effects of any spells that was cast by that spellcaster remain in play until the end of the round. So, if my chapter mage puts fog cloud on another regiment, and the chapter mage dies, fog cloud is still there, and you're good to go. The rear and the flank thing actually is a good one to bring up, because spells test morale, but if you cast a spell in the flank, they don't re-roll successful morale. Also, by reading this, that means if you had a shield bonus, you'd still get the shield bonus, unless otherwise stated.
Yeah, that'd be my read of it.
Yeah. That's good to know, because I might have got some fire darts into the side and ignoring people's shields.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something the shield rule I might have to now look at.
Yeah, it's worth looking into. And that's something to keep in mind with spellcasting as well, is just that it has some rules, interactions that are, for lack of a better term, a little finicky, at least in relation to the normality that's established by other rules in the game and other interactions. So something to keep in mind. It's not a bad thing. I think it's good that it works a little bit differently and isn't just range damage too.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and I do enjoy that part of it. And it's kind of why I give spells, especially spells that do a ton of work. I'm gonna keep going back to Dweg because they're the best spellcasting faction currently. Their spells do a lot of work, and they also act differently than if it was just more gunshots. So the shield rule says this regiment counts its defense characteristic as 1 point higher against all hits originating from its front arc. So the shield specifically calls out front arc. If I'm shooting it in the side, spells cast from the target's flank or rear do not benefit from the flank and rear attack rules. So maybe there's a specific section of flank and rear attack. I'm just checking the rulebook really quick. I'm in combat action now, yeah.
Flank and rear attacks. Did
you find it?
Yeah, it actually just says if the active regiment is attacking the enemy in the flank or rear, your opponent must reroll any successful morale test, page 12. You've caught the enemy unprepared, with their attention turned to the front. It's time to reap the benefits as panic sweeps through their ranks. It doesn't say anything about the shield rule.
No, because the shield rule I
no.
just read out specifically says they count their defense characteristics 1 point higher from all attacks originating from its front arc. So it only checks their front arc, not if you're attacking the side like the wizard. So basically what this looks like for the spellcaster is that it only matters if you are like basically you just don't get to reroll resolve, but you still get to ignore shield. I want to check out phalanx. That's the other one I want to check out before we move on, because mostly people are trying to kill each other. Phalanx counts as defense characters 1 point higher against all hits originating from its front arc. Same thing. So, yeah. Okay, well that's good to know. So you do ignore the shield and the phalanx and anything else where they would benefit from having more defense from the front, but you basically just don't get to reroll resolve. Yeah, that's it for how spells basically work. I feel like we were good on covering, especially line of sight, because that's a weird one. Because how that works is split between, you can kind of like figure it out by reading how the volley action works, because it kind of takes rules from there and how it works. So you have to like read 2 different sections of the rulebook. Another one I want to point out is like how to counter spells and how easy, not how easy, but like what to do to stop a caster from just keep throwing fireballs at you. So a way to do it is that you charge the regiment in the flank or the side, away from the wherever the character is. So if the character is in the middle, you're pretty much fine. If the character is on one side, it's better to charge them on the opposite side if you can. And this is because if the character is an offensive wizard that is casting spells, because they can only, once they're engaged with an enemy regiment, they can only cast spells at that enemy regiment. Yeah. They may only target spells that cause hits. They may only target with. Here. Additionally, when the spellcaster regiment they have joined is engaged with an enemy regiment, that regiment is the only regiment they may target with spells that cause hits. Okay, so there we go. So you can still put out buffs. Range of self spells. Targets spells with range of self can only target the. Yeah, that's fine. So you can still put out buffs to other regiments, but the thing they're engaged with is the only thing they can cause hits to. So if they're throwing fireballs at you and you are engaged with them on their flank on the opposite side of the wizard won't be able to draw a line of sight to your regiment. So they can't target you just through how, like, because they need to see you to still cast spells from you. Their line of sight is still measured from their stand, from the center frontage of their stand. And because you're in the side, there's no way they can see you. So they can't cast spells. And they just sit there and do nothing. And you can just chew through the regiment the wizard's in. You could actually also do this on the other side where the wizard is. Just make sure you line up to that you can maximize your engagement when you charge, that your stands don't go in front of the wizard, basically. So they line up parallel with the wizard, and they don't go in front, like if the thing's big enough.
Yeah.
So that's another one. That's a good way to counter it. Another one is that you just march charge a crappy chaff regiment, like militia, just into the wizard, so that the wizard has to kill the militia before they can kill anyone else, and that ties them up for a bit. Basically, wizards really do not want to be engaged in battle with anyone. They tend not to like it, and if you just choose your engagements properly by feeding your opponent chaff or getting a charge where the wizard can now no longer see your regiment, you're good. Like they still need to see the enemy regiment to still cast spells at it. So yeah, there's been a couple times where I've charged an enemy wizard regiment in the side, and now my opponent can't see me, so then I just kind of chew through them and eat them all, and they're just stuck there getting eaten. It's been really nice.
Nice.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up that one just because that's a really easy way to stop the wizard from just blasting your stuff off the table.
Yeah.
The problem is getting there, of course, because as you're making your way over there, the wizard is obviously casting spells still.
Yeah.
What's actually really funny is the magma school, because the magma wizard has pyroclast, where they can target something from a piece of erupting, like 5 inches away from a piece of erupting terrain. So if they have a piece of erupting terrain and you engage the magma wizard and your regiment is outside of that 5 inches of the erupting terrain for pyroclast, the magma wizard can't target you and can't target anyone else. So that's really funny. Yeah, I learned that one the other day, and I thought I should bring that up.
That's fair.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to any of all this that I just kind of went through? Like, I just kind of like went to the magic section, read it all off, and we just talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's. I think you hit the main stuff. It's really kind of just a rules breakdown, so I don't necessarily have a lot of insight there. It is what it is. I mean, there's a lot of just small technicalities to how magic works versus everything else, but as long as you're keeping those in mind, it's part of the deal for if your faction is heavily magic based.
Yeah. Do you want to talk now more about all the wizards in the different factions? We'll just go through them and kind of like magical choices you can take.
Yeah, I guess we'll kind of get an overview of that. What faction are we going to start with?
The one that starts with 1.
100 Kingdoms?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Witchery, but yeah, okay, 100 Kingdoms works too. So there's 2 wizards in here. We have the Chapter Mage. We've kind of talked about her before, but she's a Wizard 5. It's not bad or anything. It's kind of like the baseline wizard. Some people will be a little lower, some people will be a little higher. She's a very cheap entry point wizard because she's only 80 points. You have 4 spell schools to choose from. You got Water, Fire, Air, and Earth. They'll kind of do different things. Another thing about wizards from the change from version 1.15 to version 2 is that all the spells wizards new now become free. And if they have a school, it becomes free. And if they're like a priest, they just know all their spells. They don't have to buy all of them or anything. There was like a 10-point bump on most casters, or like 10 to 15 points. So it was pretty cheap to get all your spells. For a Chapter Mage, you got to pick a school, and then you just get your 2 spells out of it. First one's Water. You got Nuala's Tears. What's attunement 3? Range self. For every success, you heal 1 wound, and the regiment re-rolls failed morale rolls of 6 until the end of round. Then you got Call Fog, which is a range self. Attunement 3 with scaling. When an enemy regiment performs a volley action against the regiment, it treats its unmodified barrage values if it was half rounded up until the end of the round. I believe Call Fog stacks with Obscuring Terrain because it doesn't say you gain Obscuring or anything. Like, it's not the same name rule.
Mm.
So you could go to quarter shots with this, what I think is kind of funny.
Uh-huh.
If you make the Chapter Mage your Warlord, all these self spells become range 8, so you can start putting it on other people. It's really nice, and people tend to do that with her.
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk about masteries, because they all kind of end up being the same. Oh, sorry. I guess I should finish up the spells. Fire, you got Kindled Courage, range self, scaling 3. Target regiment gets +1 resolve and gains the inspired special rule until the end of round. It's okay, not that great.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone cast it.
No, you really don't, because what you really want to do is Flame Dart. What's range 14, attunement 3, infects 1 hit per success on target enemy regiment. The hits have armor piercing 2 special rule, so every time you make a success, you do an AP2.
Yeah,
that's
quite good.
It is good. It's just not super amazing, and it's kind of just like the most generic blast spell the wizard has. Next, we got School of Earth. This one doesn't really get picked up because it's very situational. You get Earth to Mud. Range 16, scaling 3. Should the target regiment wish to declare a charge or march action, it may only do so as its first action. If it takes a charge or march action as its first action, it may not take a second march action that round. So it kind of just bogs you down, but it's range 16. It's kind of weird. Like, it seems like the problem with some of these spells you start getting into is that you want to use them first, but you start losing tempo on other things. Like, this seems really nice, except you never use it because there's other stuff you want to do first, and by the time you do use it, it's not as impactful as if you did it first. It's kind of what a lot of players have found. Stone spikes. If target regiment is itself scaling 3. If target regiment is declared as a target of an enemy charge attack, the charging regiment will suffer -2 to its impact of special rules to a minimum of 0 until the end of round. Like, you start your turn, you win supremacy, you draw the chapter mage, you cast stone spikes on yourself, but now there's another fight going on, and your opponent draws that card first and like wins that battle because they got to attack first. Like, you're giving up tempo with School of Earth. Go ahead.
I mean, in addition to the scenario that you outlined, the other issue with spells like this is if you're burning an activation to cast a spell, now, like, I have the opportunity to change my plans, you know? Like, if I was going to charge that unit and they cast Stone Spikes, well, now I'll just wait a turn.
Yeah, or you'll charge someone else. Like, It kind of shows also your opponent's hand, like your hand, a little early.
Yeah, it definitely telegraphs your intentions by and large. So but I don't know how to get around that with spellcasting in this game without making things.
You'd have to revamp the system. Like, it kind of worked back in 1.15 when it lasted until the caster activated next.
Yeah,
people were like, "This is too much upkeep," and I'm like, "Yeah," but there's now like, I'd refer to them as dead spells because they don't work really anymore because they don't have that until the caster activates the next turn, because you'll throw them on your opponent at the end of the turn. You start the next turn, and now you can start doing your stuff to be effective. Your opponent's still under that effect, but the problem becomes once you get into range with the caster, and you're doing like I don't know, what's the earth spell here? What is it? Earth to mud. You're kind of just like trapping your opponent into just a perpetual cycle of them only marching their speed towards you over and over and over again until they can charge you. And you can just have the chapter mage activate, cast Earth to Mud on like an infantry unit, have the regiment you're in activate, and just back up 5 inches, and if they move 5, they'll never catch you.
Yeah.
Until you hit the board edge, but by that point, like, something's probably come along and killed them. So it kind of gets into like a bit of a negative play experience. If that old system where once you put someone into one of those spells that kind of just locked them in place, like I know there's the Dwag one from the Earth School that gave your opponent +2 defense, but they could no longer march or charge, so they couldn't move anywhere or reform. You basically just trapped your opponent there until the end of the game.
Yeah.
What was really shitty. So there is pluses and minuses to our current system.
Yeah.
School of Air, Seeking Winds, target regiment adds +1 to their barrage. This is scaling 3, target self. Guide, range 10, scaling 3. Target regiment rerolls failed hit rolls of 6 during a volley action to end a round. Those are her 4 schools and the 2 spells per each. People kind of rank them differently depending on what they're doing. I tend to find you'll just get use out of fire all the time, just because it's an attack spell. Like, you'll probably be in range to shoot someone with a fire dart. You kind of use School of Water if you want to go for her supremacy, because she doesn't want to be in the regiment that she's healing, per se, because you can always, like, duel out the mage or kill the regiment and break them, and healing's been kind of nerfed, and her healing, to be honest, isn't that great anymore with 1 success per, like, 1 heal per success, so she's not getting a ton out of it as she was before. So you kind of want to give her protective glyphs for her supremacy and make her a warlord, so she can sit behind a big block and just heal it up to chip damage.
Yeah.
Air has some fun qualities, just because you can you have time to set it up. Like, she can seek new escort into like a unit of longbows, cast Seeking Winds for the +1 to their barrage, then they can shoot, and you can have it at like the end of your turn and just set it up to do it, so it's not bad. Earth, I don't think I've ever seen used once by anybody.
Me either.
Yeah, it tends to be, I believe, like fire, water, air, and air is very, like, you have a very specific game plan for air.
Yeah.
That's what I tend to see, and after playing a bit of water, I would not put water very highly anymore. Yeah, I would actually go fire, air, water. It's just, healing's gotten nerfed where, like, healing no longer working when the regiment's broken really guts a bunch of healing. And her healing being only one success one heal per success. The max she can do is 6. And most, like, basically all 100k regiments have 4 wounds. So it's very difficult to get 2 stands back.
Yeah.
So, there is an idea to have her chasing a unit of Ashen Dawn and healing them up, but I don't put a huge amount into it, even though I do think it's kind of cute. I will probably test it out at some point, but I wasn't very impressed by healing last time I played it.
Yeah.
You want to talk about masteries?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 3 arcane masteries. I'll talk about the Thieves Priest only one, Glimmer of Faith. It's a bit expensive at 30 points, but it basically, you can just like 360 spin, auto hit anyone with Devout who's a friendly regiment, ignoring line of sight and range. So if there's someone across the board who's Devout, you can just be like, blessed, whatever, magical sprinkles, all that shit.
Yeah.
Next one is Magnus. The character stand reduces the number of additional successes requires due to scaling by -1 to a minimum of 0. Doesn't really pop up that often, I find. Most people really go for focused, what is reroll 2 failed spellcasting dice when performing spellcasting action. These rerolls can only be used in the first spellcasting action per action. This is specifically there to stop the Waghome Sorcerer double cast, and I believe the Archimandrite double cast from Old Dominion.
Yeah.
I'm only going to do Arcane 1 through 3 once for the retinue, because they're the same, I believe, for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Tier 1, Wizard +1 or Priest +1. Tier 2, you get this character stand counts a regiment as 2 less stands for the purpose of scaling, so you just basically go down 1 tier. So if they need 3 additional stands, you go down. If you need, well, no, it wouldn't, because if you were at like 14 stands and you counted as 2 less, you would still be 12, so you'd still need 3 successes. But it's very rare for something to get that big.
Yeah.
So a lot of time it's basically you just go down one section on the scaling chart.
Yeah.
And lastly, tier 3, the character treats 1 failed as a success when you perform a spellcasting action. Jesus, I can't wait for you to talk about Wadroon magic. Things here that need to... Okay, arcane heirlooms. These are the only ones I care about and I'm going to talk about. So we got 3 arcane heirlooms. They're all 20 points. Some of these will be used and some of these will not be used. So we got the chapter scroll. The character stand projects enemy interference over 16 inches rather than the usual 8. That should be changed to 10. I guess that's a typo that never got caught. We got Elysium Fragment, which gives the character the Elysium Fragment draw event. So you gotta draw the character, and the draw event is only be activated once per battle. Until the end of the round, the regiment this character stand is currently attached to gains the Smite special rule until the end of round. This is the Smite Bomb. I will explain it in a moment. Then you have Hopes and Prayers for the Thieves Priest, and that is the first time this character stand is reduced to 0 wounds and would be removed as a casualty. Do not remove this character stand from battle. Instead, at the end of the action, that would cause the character stand to be removed as a casualty. Heal this character stand 1 wound. I'm going to talk about hopes and prayers. This basically only comes up if the Theist Priest is dueled. A lot of people aren't dueling. They're mostly killing the regiments, so this doesn't really pop up because even if he would die, he doesn't have a regiment to join, so he still runs away. Okay, let's talk about the Smite Bomb. So, Elysium Fragment. People will take a Theist Priest, grab Elysium Fragment. They will grab a big block of militia, I don't know, 8+ stands. They will put it in Relentless Drills or Veterans so that their clash is higher. They will have the Theist Priest. They'll win Supremacy. They'll draw the Theist Priest. They will declare Elysium Fragment. They will cast Bless on the militia. And then your opponent will go. And then if your opponent has their deck set up, or if they can, or if they know what's in the list and they've been waiting for it, their next card they're going to draw is going to be the regiment that is across from the militia that are either going to be slamming into them with like a charge, and they'll just back up so that you have to march charge to get there, wasting the Elysium Fragment. Or if they're somehow in melee with a bunch of militia already, militia are defense 1-2 with a shield, and they will just beat the militia to death. Because usually what you're using a Smite Bomb for is to kill a high defense, high hardened thing. Dragon Slayers, Hold Thanes, Spires, what are they called? Incarnate Sentinels, Steel Forge, a lot of Dweg stuff. It's always Dweg. I played that Dweg game and all I can think about is Dweg.
Fair.
Valkyries. What else? What else is there that's like a really big, like Thunder Riders? Like, if you're already engaged with things, they'll just activate and just start chewing through militia because militia don't have any stats. Like the defense 2 base, the resolve 2 base. They just die, and you're kind of hoping that the weight of bodies will keep you alive. What's just like. I've obliterated 6 stands of Men-at-Arms before, and Men-at-Arms have better defensive stats than militia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Theist Priest is resolve too. The same resolve as the militia. Like, you're not even getting a bonus off that guy for your resolve. You're just doing, like, size of regiment. So, like, if you go, up to 8 stands, you get... So, if you go militia, you're 8 stands. What's your resolve at? Where's that resolve chart? I want to talk about this, and it's kind of like, and why I declare it like a meme, and I'm fine with people telling me like, oh, you're wrong, it's really good, I got it to work, but I'm like, this is such a tell that it's happening, and if people are letting you do it, or if you're having like 10 stands with this massive block of militia to do it for one turn, it's like, I could pin you with something cheap that isn't your target, and then, like, hit you from the side with your target, or, I don't know, it's really just kind of, like, not that great. Okay, here, I found it. So, you get +1 resolve for 4 to 6 tans, you get +2 to 7 to 9, you get +3 for 10 or more. So, the militia, at most, are going to be resolve 5.
Yeah.
There are additional stands for 30. Like, you can do it, it's just, you'll have this massive block with this massive tail, and it's hard to move. Like, it's just its own little beast, and it's just kind of like... I'm not worried about it just because its defense is so low, but then there's a guy who played, like, the 21 Force-Grown Drone list, and it was like... people would get stuck in combat with the thing, but it's like, at that size, you can also just run around it at that point, and that's kind of like what your game plan is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very much not worried about the Smite Bomb thing. Like, it just... to make it work to survive the damage, you have to get really big, but now you're less, movable, or mobile. And if you're smaller to, like, let's say you're 8 stands to get around there, so what are you getting on your +3 resolve? You're only getting +2, so you go to resolve 4, not bad. You still die really quick to plink damage. A good charge from something dedicated to hit, like Crimson Towers, Dragon Slayers, some Jotnar, Mountain Jotnar, Ice Jotnar. They'll just rip through this thing. Like it's not hard to kill militia.
Mm-hmm.
Like Spires, I feel gets away with it a bit more because they have the Biomancies to heal their Force-Grown Drone blocks.
Yeah.
And just sit there and like fix up the chip damage, because chip damage does build over time, while 100k doesn't really have that. Because like if you're having a chapter mage heal militia, it's like, okay, cool. You're probably getting like 4 successes, bring back a stand. What do you do?
Yeah.
And yeah, someday I will play it and we'll see how it works, but like you lose too much tempo. It's very telling to your opponent that you're trying to do this. So I really don't. Something you can do what's a bit better, because my next problem with it is your accuracy. Your Clash 2, you're Inspiring to 3, you're Blessed, so you're re-rolling your 4, 5s, and 6s. With your 4 attacks and your 2 or 3 support, like you're probably doing Relentless Drills on this just for the support attacks. Like, I feel like you're not hitting, like, you're still missing a ton of hits as well. But I think like a better meme is to actually give the Imperial Officer Arcane 1, put Elysium Fragment on him, and put him in a block of Gilded Legion. And so that the Gilded Legions, because they're an anvil, want to get in, like in a big block of them, and they want to get into a fight. They get in there, they can take the hits to survive longer. They get into a fight with another brick, and then you just say character to what's up?
So I think possibly that doesn't work. I'm just taking a look. I don't think the Imperial Officer can take that upgrade.
He can take Retinue Arcane.
So only character stands with the Wizard X or Priest X. But does it get that from the Arcane upgrade?
Yeah, Arcane. You can if you take Arcane 1, you get Wizard 1 or Priest 1.
Oh, fair enough.
Because it's a +1. So that's how he does it.
Okay.
So I put more value into this combo of like, you have the big block of Gilded Legion, you have the Imperial Officer, so the Imperial Officer goes, he declares that. The Gilded Legion are already in combat, they go next, they get their Bastion to go to Defense 4, they already have a higher resolve baseline, there's a big brick of them, they have Iron Discipline to help out against flank charges or anything, so they don't reroll morale. They have support, they have a base clash of 3 already, so they're inspiring to 4. And so they're already accurate, they get enough attacks. And you kind of just like smite bomb whatever you're dealing with at that point. I think that's a little better. Mm-hmm. But the militia smite bomb I don't really put value in because I feel like it's not durable enough to successfully make it there and be mobile enough to make it there.
Yeah.
Because like if I see that thing coming towards me, if it's 8-10 stands, let's say I'm shooting it to pink it off, I'm setting up chaff to give it to like keep it stuck and then hitting it with some hammers from the side. Like I'm seeing it coming and I'm like, all right, I know I got to deal with this at some point. I'm going to make a plan for it. And when my opponent decides to do it, I'll have an activation or two to know. And there might be times where like my opponent's like, I'm going to do the smite bomb. And I'm like, cool, I draw my card. Crimson Towers going to the side. Household Knights going to the side. Just blow this thing up. Because Crimson Towers, every hit's going to kill a guy. It's Brutal Impact 2, especially from the side. Yeah. Or even from the front. Like, they'll just kill a guy. Terrifying 1, so you're terrifying 4 going down to 3. Like, make your resolve on a bunch of dead guys. Oh, there's the cleave coming in. Like, make more resolve. And it's just, you just watch the thing fall apart pretty quick. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just one of those things where I don't really put a ton of value into. What's your thoughts on the smite bomb?
I don't know. It's one of those things where it seems like it's a lot of setup and yeah. I don't know.
I think I don't like it because it has too many fail points.
Yeah.
Like, there's just too much stuff going on where it's like, if someone really wants to get rid of this, they'll get rid of it. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
Want me to talk about the Theist Priest? I'm doing a ton of talking, then you can cover the next one, because my god, I've done too much talking.
Mm-hmm.
Theist Priest, Holy Fire, range 10, Tomb of 3, infect 2 hits per success on target enemy regiment. I like the spell. It does pretty good in defense 3 and lower. It's just range 10, so it's kind of short. Saint's Favor, range 10, Tomb of 3, scaling. Target regiment adds +1 to its either defense or evasion stat until end of round. It's pretty nice. Just to talk about that one, you can get a defense 5 regiment out of this, because you can have a defense 3 Steel Legion or Guild Legion, +1 from Bastion, +1 from Saint's Ferry to go to defense 5. That's kind of how 100 Kingdoms does it, but once again, it's a bunch of setup, and at that point, your opponent has a chance to get in there and do a bunch of damage, so there's an opening. Heavenly Blessing just gives a target within 10 with Tomb of 3 scaling blessed. Fervor, range, it says self and then 12 and scaling 3. So it says target friendly regiment loses broken status as it had rallied action. The target does not count as having been activated as a result of this, so you just unbreak somebody. Divine Sanction, the character stand attached to this regiment gains a cleave +1 in deadly blades and Quicksilver strike special rules until end of round. In addition, the character stand can immediately perform an out-of-sequence free additional duel action. This is nice if you want the Theist Priest to duel. He probably doesn't want to duel. But what you do want to do it on is when you activate your Supremacy ability to give everyone who's devout your blessings, whoever casts spells on the Theist Priest regiment. So the Warlord Theist Priest casts Divine Sanction to give cleave and deadly blades to everyone who's devout in your list. The second Theist Priest casts Blessed onto the Warlord Theist Priest to give Blessed out to everyone in your list who's devout. And then you have a bunch of Blessed, Cleave 1, Deadly Blades guys running around stabbing people. Ton of setup. Pays off, but if your opponent knows about it and is worried about it, they will just sit still or back up, is what I find what happens. Yeah. You and I had that game last summer? Like, I want to say a year ago now. So it can work, but it also, there is ways to counter it, so I don't really put a huge amount into it. Good thing I gotta say about the Theist Priest is that he has a wide variety of spells. So you have a spell for every turn of the game. Like early on, you can put out defense bonuses, you can put out bless, you can rally some people. And once you get closer, you can start holy firing people. The Theist Priest for 100 Kingdoms is our better spellcaster because he has a spell for every turn, while the Chapter Mage, due to how limiting the schools are, I find, has a specific turn, like a couple turns where like their school works, and then after that it's like, okay, you're really not doing much. And that's why I put fire up there at the top for the Chapter Mage, because you're usually killing people with fire darts. That's it for 100k wizards. Oh, I already talked about Ireland. Yeah. What do you think?
It is what it is. They're a magic-centric faction, so they have a lot of options, but there's a lot of them just are not practical for tempo reasons. So
yeah, I don't mind them. I just don't run them very often, just because, like, I want to say their biggest problem, besides everything else I've outlined, is that their warband selection is not that great. Like, they don't have a nice bunker they can sit in compared to other factions wizards. Like the Volva can sit in a unit of Valkyries, the Magma, like the Wizard and Dwag can sit in a unit of Fireforge. Like, there's better bunkers in other factions, so it's not hard to just like have an opposing wizard or some range stuff just kill off your regiment that the wizard's sitting in, and then you watch your wizard run off.
Yeah.
We guess what? We get to skip Spires. They don't have wizards.
True.
Do I go home?
Might as well.
Okay, you're up for this one because I need a break.
Where are we here? So, in terms of the wizards for the Dweg home. First off, we have the Tempered Sword. Well, there's the Ardent Caraway, who's Priest 5. So they get 2 spells, Dismay and Resolve, which we'll, of course, review momentarily, but I'm just going to go over the characters themselves. Then there's the Tempered Sorcerer. He's Wizard 6. He's got Fire, Earth, and Magna spells. Of course, that's going to be the guy that you're taking. He can go on the Drake, shit tickets, the whole 9. And then lastly, there's the Tempered Steel Shaper, another Wizard 6. He's just got 3 spells, Honed Blades, Unmake Armor, Tempered Plate, more of a, I guess, technical or a buff type of wizard there in terms of his spell selection. But to get into the spells themselves, before we cover the upgrades and how they impact things, so the... in the order that we discussed them. So the Ardent Caraway, he's got 2 pretty easy ones. Resolve, which is range 12, scaling 3. The target regiment loses its broken status as if it performed a rally action. The target regiment does not count as having been activated. In addition, the regiment gains Inspired until the end of the round.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's just a utility spell. It's the Inspired thing sounds like it's pretty, like it's a good deal, but it's really not gonna change too much for you, except for in very certain edge cases, I feel like. Then there's Dismay, which is range of 8 inches, scaling 2, or attunement 2 scaling. So this spell requires a number of successes equal to the lowest unmodified resolve value, minimum of 2 successes in the target regiment. Target regiment becomes broken. Should the target regiment have no resolve value, then the 2 successes are required for the spell to succeed. The spell has no effect on regiments that are already broken. So you can't shatter a regiment with it, but what I had done to me that traumatized me in a very deep way early on is I had a unit of Warbred who got hit with Dismay. And then the regiment that the Caraway was attached to charged and broke them, which, because they were already broken, became a shatter. So that was a rough one. So that's probably the best way to make use of that. But on the other hand, the value of Dismay, being able to break things on command, like that can shut down healing and charges
It also,
as necessary, or at least blunt their impact. So
yeah. And also, like, because it targets the lowest unmodified resolve value, there's a lot of things in the game, especially like lower. I don't want to say like weaker stuff. Like, it's weak. No, it's more like its strength as a regiment. Like, it has a low resolve. It's really easy just to like get it off.
Yeah.
Because determines return. Smoke across number of success equal to the lowest unmodified resolve. So I guess it's actually easier. Yeah, it's easier to get off the lower the resolve is on a regiment. It's usually like 2. So like men at arms, militia, merc crossbow, like they're all 2. So it's like you only need 2 of these successes, and it just pops off really quick. It is attunement 2, what I have to say. So it's that being that low for your attunement is also kind of tough. So it does balance it out, but like, if you have a high resolve, it's harder, because like if you resolve 4 or 5, it just won't do anything being attunement 2, because then you need like 5 2 downs, and you're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of dislike that it targets the lowest unmodified resolve value in the target regiment, because like, it's like, okay, why am I building that regiment that big? Like, it does have a scaling thing, but it's like, okay, like I took a character, I took about like 2 stands, so now we're at like 6 stands. So the scaling can be, and your lowest resolve is 2, so it needs to be like gets 2 successes, and has scaling, so it has to be 3 successes. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish like your size mattered, to be like, hey guys, don't run away. You know, we have all our friends here.
Yeah.
So it can do some serious work if it gets off. You want to talk about this Tempered Steel Shaper?
Yeah, so moving on to this tempered steel shaper. So 3 spells there. There's Honed Blades, which is 12 inches, attunement 3 scaling. Target regiment adds +1 to its clash characteristic until the end of the round. Not a bad ability by any stretch, but it has the same tempo issue that every spell like this seems to have. So I mean, if you know that you're going to get the value out of it, you might as well. But it's you are technically communicating your intentions by casting it. Temper plate, 12 or 10-inch range, attunement of 3, scaling. The regiment gains hardened 1 till the end of the round, up to a maximum of 2. That one, if a unit is already, you know, if you know what's going to go down, then that's not the worst thing in the world to have on them. But it's just hardened; it's not extra defense, and you know, maybe it would just be better to activate that first, depending on the situation. So, same, problem that all of these buff type spells have. Which I'm going to keep harping on every time I hit one. But the last one is Unmake Armors, 12 inches, 3 scaling. The target regiment suffers a -1 to its defense characteristic until the end of the round. Again, that's good. If it's like slingers or hunters, you can bring them down to 0 defense, which is a mean little trick to do, so it's not without its value, but same problem as ever. You have to do it. You have to sacrifice an activation to get it off the ground, and a lot of the time, when that's going to give you the most value, is when getting an activation off first is going to give you more value. So
Yeah. I do feel like the Tempered Steel Shaper's buffs gets a kind of like breaks the mold of like buffs a little more, just because of how he works. Where he can and more like how Dwagholm works, because they're a more defensive orientated faction, and they have higher just like base defensive stats compared to a lot of other factions. They can just take the hit and keep taking it.
yeah,
So you can justify putting these buffs out onto your stuff earlier, because the other thing it does, it generates you shit tickets. Like
yeah,
he's probably the best shit ticket generator, because if he just targets these buffs onto his own regiment, they just automatically go off.
yeah.
Um,
That's
and
very
then
true.
and then if he ever wants to engage someone, he can just unmake armor them, and it automatically goes off with whatever he's engaged with. So,
Yeah,
but then that puts him at risk. But it's still like just really good. I've seen our local Dweg player has just been spamming out Tempered Plate because Harden 1 is just really good.
yeah,
It just gets rid of all that cleave AP, Brutal Impact 1, and even if there's like 2 or 3, like it just reduces that coming into you.
yeah.
Then we got the Tempered Sorcerer and his 3 fucking schools.
Yeah, so a few more to cover here, but they're all sort of a similar idea. So, Coruscation and Fireball, I'm going to just kind of roll into one. They're the part of the fire school for Tempered Sorcerer. Coruscation is 14 inches, Fireball is 14 inches. Coruscation is an attunement of 4, whereas Fireball has an attunement of 3. But they inflict 1 hit per success on target enemy regiment. The only difference is Fireball has the lower attunement, has armor piercing 2. But essentially, that's how you get double damage for the double spellcast thing there, since it
Yep.
otherwise wouldn't let you do the same thing. But one is just higher quality hits than the other. There isn't a reason, I don't think, why you would choose necessarily one over the other. It's just there to support that specific mode of play. Then there's Flame Wall, which is 8 inches, attunement 3 scaling. It's 1 hit per success on target enemy regiment. If at least 3 successes are scored, the target enemy regiment cannot gain Inspired as a result of a successful charge until the end of the round. It's a pain in the ass. It'll make you think twice if it gets one off on you, if your plan was to charge, because quite often you need that charge to go off good, and losing Inspired, depending on the faction, can be quite not good.
Yeah. This used to do a lot more and just annihilate enemy regiments, but now it's just kind of shuts off Inspire. It's kind of better if you're playing a Flame Wizard to just keep casting, stay away 14 inches as possible, and just keep casting constant Corsorate and Fireball at people, really.
Yeah.
Just stay away and keep just lighting them up.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Flame Wall, there's a case for it, but it's the other two are probably generally what you're going to want to be going with there.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Earth School, so we've got Roots of Stone. It's 10-inch range, scaling a 3. Target regiment that is not yet activated this round gains +2 defense, but cannot perform a march, charge, reform, combat reform, or withdraw action until the end of round. So that's an interesting spell just because you can use it offensively or defensively. Like if you need to tie up a enemy unit, you can use it with that, because if you're not going to be fighting them, it doesn't matter if they get +2 defense. But on the other hand, if you need some guys to dig in and not get the shit kicked out of them, +2 defense is going to go a long way. And if you know that they're going to be in a fight and you are not intending to get them out of that fight, then why the hell wouldn't you? So it's a good spell. Yep. I mean, it's you got two ways you can use it. It's good what it is. My only complaint is that I don't play Dwagholm, so to me it's a bullshit spell. But
it is kind of a bullshit spell. There is.
If you played as them, you'd be happier than a pig in shit.
I've heard one guy who's on our Discord who's used the Earth School and used Roots of Stone, and he would light up the enemy regiment, put a bunch of shots in it, do a bunch of damage, and then cast Roots of Stone on it so that it couldn't move. And then next turn do it all over again.
That's rough.
Yeah. It can be pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Only saving grace is that you have to be 10 inches away, but the caster can go 10 and the regiment can just back up 5 and put that distance, and then if they walk up another 5 to try and kind of catch up to you, you can Roots of Stone, light them up again, and Roots of Stone them so they can. Yeah. There's stuff you can do. Broken Ground.
So target regiment cannot perform impact attacks on its next charge. The utility of that cannot be overstated. This is one where I would say it's worth sacrificing the tempo to get it off circumstantially.
Especially
more than a lot of others.
Especially against a big horse brick. If you're seeing 6 or 7 Household Knights or Crimson Towers coming at you, it's probably a good choice. Just being no, stop it.
Yeah, it definitely is. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it does what it does. So, but definitely, you can shut down a lot of units raison d'etre just by hitting that at the right time.
No.
So rock shaping. Range of 10 inches, attunement 3, scaling. Target regiment gains a tenacious special rule. If you have a Herald of Stone officer currently present in the target regiment, then it also gains Indomitable. So the main reason to use it is if you have a Herald of Stones, that way you can get, I think, having Indomitable and Tenacious on a unit winds up being
pretty annoying.
Pretty frustrating to play into. So that, I would say, is worth it. But just to get Indomitable... or Tenacious, sorry.
It's pretty good.
It's not worth... Well, it's pretty good, but I don't think it's worth the sacrifice in tempo.
Yeah, I find Earth School has the issue that it's totally the sacrifice of tempo school. And, I guess we'll get into Magma, because there's a lot going on with Magma right now. Especially compared to Fire, that kind of got a little, I feel a little neutered, but it was justifiable, because Fire was absurd.
Yeah.
I don't think Earth has really caught up to the other schools, just because you're giving up so much, and there are times where I feel there are Earth spells that you don't want to be casting every turn. A good wizard has a spell for every turn.
Yeah.
A bad wizard is a wizard that has no reason to cast a spell every turn.
Yeah.
And I feel Earth School kind of falls into that.
That's fair.
Magma.
Yeah, so Magma School, so we've got Eruption, 8-inch range, attunement 3. Target piece of zonal or garrison terrain counts as erupting until the end of the spellcaster's next activation. All stands currently within the target piece of zonal terrain suffer 1 hit with the AP1 special rule. These hits are treated as being inflicted to the flank of the regiment. All stands currently occupying the target piece of garrison terrain suffer 2 hits with the armor-piercing 1 special rule. Eh.
So it reads kind of meh. Don't get me wrong, because it's only like if you erupt a piece of terrain and there's 6 enemy stands on it, or does it give a shit about all stands currently? Yeah, so even your friendlies are getting hit by this damn thing. They're just taking 1 hit per stand, so it doesn't do a whole ton right off the bat. Like if there's 3 stands on it, your opponent's only taking 3 hits at AP1 from the side, so it's ignoring shield and phalanx, and then it's doing resolve. So there's times like you won't even kill a stand. But putting erupting on it is just for like the other spells.
Yeah.
Mostly for Pyroclast. What's the last one?
That's fair. So Magmatic Sweep, 10 inches, 3. Nominate a point on the battlefield within range, even one beneath a regiment. The area within 3 inches of the marker counts as a piece of erupting zonal terrain with the hindering special terrain special rule. This terrain feature remains until the end of the round.
This one's mean.
Yep, you can definitely mess up somebody's plans with that.
So if there's an enemy regiment in how is it? So basically because it's a 3-inch it's 3 inches around the marker. It's basically a 6-inch zone diameter. So you can just measure out 13 inches. So if there's someone within 13 inches of you and you can like get all their stands or half or more, you can stop their impact attacks or their inspire because they're now in hindering terrain and they're charging through it. You can also just drop it in front of you if you know they're coming to get you and you can't kill them fast enough to reduce that impact and inspire into you. This also is very good for. We'll get to the last one, what's Pyroclast, but you can really drop this within basically 13 inches of your character and then use Pyroclast to start bouncing damage from it into people. And that's kind of what it's more used for, is to like bounce Pyroclast off of the hindering terrain into enemy regiments.
Yeah.
Probably talk about that.
Pyroclast, 10 inches, attunement 3. So 5 hits, inflicts 5 hits on target enemy regiment. These hits have the armor-piercing 1 special rule. Spell may target an enemy regiment within 5 inches of an erupting piece of zonal or garrison terrain, regardless of the spell's range or the spellcaster's line of sight. These hits count as being inflicted to the flank of the regiment.
So this is real good.
Yeah.
And so you're basically combining Pyroclast with the other 2 spells in some way, shape, or form of getting erupting terrain and then Pyroclasting off of erupting terrain, especially if you're running 2 tempered sorcerers. Like one of them is making erupting terrain or dropping down magma steep, and because you can target any erupting terrain anywhere, you can bounce that Pyroclast into someone. So like you can have a magma wizard on the other side of the table. There's erupting terrain either generated by another magma wizard or a herald of magma in a piece of terrain, and you can just start bouncing spells off of it. What's really good. Something I do need to mention, because I don't know the answer on this. If a piece of terrain is already erupting, can you cast eruption on it to make it erupting again to get just the damage off of it? I don't think so, because it's already erupting and you can't because it's like when it erupts. Like, I guess that's the idea. Because target piece of zonal garrison encounters erupting until the end of the spellcaster's activation. All stands currently within the target piece of zonal terrain suffer. So maybe you can erupt something that is already erupting because there's a period.
Yeah. That my read is that it's so it would add the erupting keyword stop, and then all stands within the existing piece of zonal terrain suffer one hit.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's not just if it was like if this piece of zonal terrain becomes erupting, then blah blah blah. Then I would say it's conditional on that. But this, I would say it produces the erupting effect and then procs the hits, and they're not strictly related to one another.
So I guess you can do both. I didn't know, and we last time we played it that you couldn't, but I'll just let Bailey know he can do that. Good thing we read the rules.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, Magma School is very good just for how trickery and things you can bounce and do with it. Just because you're turning terrain, erupting, and then bouncing pyroclast off of that terrain into enemies' flanks and doing damage. It's really annoying. For relics, you got a couple of them. I'm just gonna read. I'll do the masteries first. They're quick. You got Flame Oratory. It's for the Argent Kirilla only. The character stand gains Tenacious. Okay, who cares? There's Focus. Focus for the Dwag caster actually costs 25 points instead of 15 for the 100 Kingdoms one.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Hellbringer Sorcerer where you can ride the Hellbringer Drake. And then you got, for 10 points, Lava Shot. So characters with the Wizard X special rule gain the Precise Shot special rule. Precise Shots.
It smites on one.
It smites on one? Yeah, it smites on one. So it's just, it's not bad. You get 4, your Barrage 4. So, if you have 10 points left over, I wouldn't say no, but you only have one Mastery slot, and a lot of people just take Focused, but you can only take Focused once. And the other guy takes Hellbringer Sorcerer, so Lava Shots I don't believe gets used very often.
Yeah.
A big one here is actually Cathodic Flame. So enemy stands reroll successful resolve tests when suffering wounds from this character. This also applies to spellcasting actions. So this is very good on the Magma and Fire Wizard for Dwag because it's just more damage when they roll morale for those saves from your spells because now they're rerolling it. It's totally worth it if you want to grab that for your double cast Warlord Sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
For arcane stuff, there's the Shattering, which gives the regiment Flawless Strikes. All hit rolls of 1, target defense says 0 for that attack, so hit rolls of 1 become Smite. And I just closed down the tab and I gotta redo it all. Heart of the Mountain Draw event. Character stand ignores enemy interference, adds 1 to its attunement value to a max of 4. This one's pretty good. Usually people throw it on the the Helldrake wizard just because they're not getting retinue when they ride the Drake, and this kind of helps that out a bit.
Yeah.
There's a Tempered Goad. Target, once per battle, target enemy brute, cav, or monster within 10 of the character cannot benefit from the Inspired rule. Doesn't sound that great, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Graft of Fire. Target stand may choose to roll 1 additional die when performing a spellcasting action. Each time the character stand rolls an additional die as a result of the character upgrade, it may pass an unmodified morale test or suffer a wound. This one's also a really good one for the Hellbringer Drake wizard. And finally, we got Memory of Breath, character stand gains Aura of Death. So that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I currently would say the Magma School is the best one just because of how weird and wacky you can do shit with it. It isn't as straightforward as the other schools, and you can get not as much output as Fire can, but you still do a very good amount, and you still got utility, and you can always cast a spell every turn to generate your shit tickets.
Yeah.
While Fire needs a target, and Earth kind of is just like, yay, put the +2 defense thing on me after I've moved.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I say about those. Yeah, Dwag casting is the strongest in the game. It's not hard or surprising.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Nords?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Shaman.
Yeah, things get a little different with the Nords because they also have the giants that are able to cast. So first up, though, in terms of the casters on the character side of things, there's the Shaman, who's got 3 spells: Blurred Vision, Mistweave, and Reshape Destiny. He's a priest 5. He's a very pure caster. He doesn't really have a lot of capability outside of that. Then there's the Volva. She's a bit more of a capable fighter. She's priest 5. She's got a whole suite of spells: Fruit of the Golden Tree, Warbringer's Light, Hell's Caress, Glory of Valhalla, an aspect of Fenrir. In practice, you're only going to be using a few of those, but we'll get it through that. In addition to that, you have the Ice Yatnar, who also casts spells, and is able to do so as a character. So he's got Ice Storm, Rhymestorm, or Ice Armor, excuse me, Rhymestorm, and a case. So all of them generally have pretty tight packets of spells, except for the Volva, but in practice, she's probably got about the same number of viable spells. But let's break that down. So the Shaman has Blurred Vision, which is a range of 20 inches, attunement 3 scaling. Target regiment can only select targets to volley or charge that are within 12 inches until the end of the round. That's a good one. If you know the...
Yeah, I do like it. I think Blurred Vision is more for the volley, because like if you can only charge something within 12 inches until the end of the round, it's like if you march charge, you're usually within that 12 anyway.
Yeah.
Or if you're just charging regularly, it might just be like, oh, you need a 3 plus your 5, so you're within 8. So like it's more against like countering shooting, what I like.
Or infantry charges. I mean, a calf charge is going to get through it, but
yeah. Or a long bomb infantry charge. Like it's only 5 plus 6, so it's still 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it'd be like a long bomb cav charge on something that goes really far, like a mounted squires with our 9 plus 6, where you can get up to like 15.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more like that stuff.
Yeah. But we got Mistweave, so it's 12 inches, scaling 3. Target regiment counts its evasion characteristic as 1 point higher to a maximum of 2. When an enemy regiment performs a volley action against it until the end of the round.
Okay.
I don't know.
I
don't think it's that great, honestly. Like, Evasion 2 is fine, but it's not worth what you're paying to get it. And it's only against volleys.
Yeah, casting Blurred Vision would just do you better, because then you just reduce the range to 12. So you just be out of range and out of threat.
Yeah, that is, I would say, probably a correct assessment. If it could get you up to Evasion 3, I would say it would maybe have legs, but that's...
Get you up to Evasion 4. Do the supremacy of Gift of the Yarnharl from the Volva, and then get that on somebody.
Yeah, no, it's already that one is already built to not let you get above Evasion 2 either. Apparently, Evasion 2 is where it tops out for the.
You're not allowed Evasion 2 unless you're chosen in Conquest or above Evasion 2. Then you get 3. Exactly. That's it.
Yeah. Then we got Reshape Destiny, 8 inches, 3 scaling, reroll all failed defense rolls until the end of the round. So it's like a more limited blast, but it's useful. If you know you're going to get smoked by something, it's not a bad thing to have.
Out of the Shaman, I like Blurred Vision and Reshape Destiny. I don't think I would probably ever cast Mistweave. I for sure would cast Blurred Vision a lot. And then if I could get away with it, I'd probably cast Reshape Destiny. But I might just end up casting Blurred Vision every time at some ranged unit just to keep them... just to force them to become closer. Because your range 20 was fucking huge.
Yeah, it outranges almost every actual ranged unit.
Yeah. So
moving on to the Volva. Oh, sorry, you were gonna say?
Oh no, he has a purpose, and his spell list is good. I like it.
Yeah.
He says "fuck you," like guns.
It's I mean, you're taking the Shaman for different reasons, but those are just kind of a nice bonus on top of it. So
yeah.
The worst thing. Then we got the Volva. So she's has more spells, but you're not going to use all of them, and I'll get into why as we review the spells. So her first spell is Aspect of Fenrir, range self, attunement 3 scaling. So target regiment gains the Terrifying 1 special roll until the end of the round.
Okay.
Not really worth it.
No.
Just not really going to dwell on that too much.
It's too
You
slow.
got, yeah, and for very little actual bonus, Terrifying 1 is not, like, Terrifying 2 makes a big difference, but Terrifying 1 has the Cleave 1 problem.
Yeah. Kind of
Fruit of
does.
the Golden Tree. This is the reason why you're probably not going to cast too many of the other spells, in all honesty. So it's Range Self, Attunement 3. For each success, target regiment heals 1 wound. In addition, the regiment rerolls all failed morale tests of 6 until the end of round. Usually, once your Valkyries that the Volva is attached to are dug in and fighting, this is what you're using to keep them replenished. So it winds up being the de facto choice as soon as combat starts to happen in most cases.
Yep.
Yep, that's
Like Valkyries with Blast. We'll talk about it, I guess, a little more. But she does have the treasure, or is the master or the treasure trove? It's the master. Yeah, Rune of Shielding to give the draw event like +1 defense for Bastion onto the
and then you
Valks,
can
and
take
then blessing them. So you reduce a lot of damage off Valkyries, and then healing them. So it becomes a really effective brick if you can get it off, like the
yep.
tempo of it all, and it just becomes really annoying to kill. So it's a very good
And
spell with her Valkyries.
yeah, it's essentially the default that you're going to be casting most turns. But then we get into the range, like the spells with a range that are not self for her. So the first one is Glory of Valhalla. 10-inch range, 2-3. Target regiment adds +2 to its resolve characteristic until the end of the round. Um, uh, I don't.
Probably not casting it.
No, there's better ways to get additional resolve onto a unit that needs it.
Yeah.
So that one has the aspect of Fenrir problem where it's just too much of a commitment for too little.
It's a
Um,
tempo thing, really.
yeah. Then you've got Hell's Caress, 12-inch range. It's scaling 3. The target regiment suffers the Decay 3 special rule until the end of the round. It's fine, but you have to activate first and before the unit that you want to do it to, and it's just a decay roll.
So it's fine. Like it's on for 5s and 6s.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're within 12 inches, you're kind of more setting up to use like get the Valkyrie block in position and then just cast Fruit of the Golden Tree for the damage. Like reduce the chip, reduce like heal up, all that stuff. So like yeah, I don't feel like Hell's Crest gets used a whole ton, even though I would like it to.
Yeah, it seems like it's more appealing on paper, but the decay is never gonna. You have to go so in to get it, and it's not really gonna swing things too much. Maybe with a little more decay, it might be better, but that might be overtuned. I don't know. It's just not
Becomes
quite
a
there.
problem.
Yeah. So you've got possibly the other spell you might consider casting over even Fruit of the Golden Tree, which is Warbringer's Light, 10-inch range, scaling 3, and it just gives the target regiment blessed.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yep, can't beat
Good.
that. It's worth doing if you have the opportunity to, for sure. Uh, but I don't know that we need to belabor that point too much. So the White Waste Shaman is an upgrade for the White Waste Tribesman
Do you
regiment, which I
want to?
forgot to mention.
Yeah, but he's not even out yet, so you might change.
Yeah, but right now it's essentially it's just giant buffs.
Yeah, so
Um,
we'll just do him quick.
yeah, dominate 8-inch attunement 2. Target monster regiment may only take 1 action this round until the end of the round. So that's your anti their monster maneuver. Fine, but that actually like it might be worth doing that in some cases, but you do have to get really close to pull it off, so it's risky.
Yeah, risky business. Also, it's
Yeah,
attunement 2, and you're priest 5.
yeah.
You get no
So
bonuses. Kind of tough.
yeah, it's pretty tough to get that one off. Enrage is a little more compelling. So it's a range of 12 inches, attunement 2. Target monster regiment adds +6 to its attack characteristic until the end of the round. So this is very doable.
Attunement
It just
4?
requires you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You just have to be close to the giant, and then it gets +6 attacks. So why wouldn't you?
Good.
That's essentially what they're there for. Then the Ice Jotnar. So it's range, or first spell is Ice Armor, range self, attunement 3. The Ice Jotnar adds +1 to its defense characteristic until the end of the round. It's good.
Yeah, defense 4 is a really good stat. Especially how this thing works, because it performs a free spellcasting action during its activation. So you can Ice Armor, Charge Clash, you can Charge Clash, Ice Armor, you can you can do its other spells. I should probably talk. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. I should have got the other spells out of the way before I get into the weirdness of the Ice Jotnar.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That may have been something to touch on initially, but nonetheless. So the other spells: Rhyme Storm, 8-inch range, attunement 3, 2 hits per success on target enemy regiment. Good. Fine. It's just if you're getting into position to fight, that's an option, or once you're already fighting, it's extra hits. So that's what that mainly is. And then lastly, there's Encase, which is 8 inches, 3 scaling. Target regiment halves its march, rounding up until the end of the round. Got all the same problems.
Yeah. So the Ice Jotnar has a text here in its character sheet, or its data sheet. It may perform a free spellcasting action during its activation as if it were a character. It doesn't say a free additional spellcasting action, so you don't get 2. So you can't have one of your actions be a spellcasting action and then one of them be the free additional one. It's just you get one free. It's outside of your actions, and it can only be used for spellcasting. So you can double march this guy up, shoot your Rhyme Storm 8 inches up, and do what, 15 plus 7, 22-inch threat, and just try and get a couple successes on your attunement 3 and affect a bunch of damage onto people. You can cast while you're in melee with someone, so you could totally just charge, clash, Rhyme Storm, finish them off and kill them. People will cast Ice Armor to go from defense 3 to defense 4. Like, he has a lot going on for him. He's pretty expensive, but he does a really good job of just murdering shit. And I don't say just like staying alive, but like he has good murder output. He's also clean fucking 3.
One thing I will mention as well, since we touched on it, is the White Way Shaman actually gets a free additional spellcasting action. So it does
give that guy +6 attacks.
Yeah, so it can do that. It has a little bit more flexibility and utility in that regard. So the Arcane retinue is pretty much the same as you're used to. When we get into the Arcane Mastery upgrades, this might be out of order from if we were doing the artifacts before. I don't care.
That's fine. Where are the Masters? They're there.
So there's Magus, which character stand reduces the number of additional successes due to scaling by -1 to a minimum of 0. You know it. You don't pick it. There it is.
We don't need that.
Yeah. Then you got Sacrificial Lamb. This is an interesting one for the Nords. So with this character stand, or when this character stand is removed as a casualty, all friendly regiments gain the Bless special rule until the end of round.
So people tend to put this on the Shaman and then have the Shaman run forward with the rest of the army and just be like, kill the Shaman first, so my rest of my army can Bless so I can hit you really hard. It seems like every once in a while someone falls for it, or if you put it in a really weird spot where it's like they have to kill the Shaman first and then like get to all the juicier parts of your army so you can actually get the Bless. Like, you can kind of set this one up to be more beneficial to you because you just keep running the character forward, and either eventually you will become God or die trying. Yeah.
But if you have a shooter or a spellcaster, then there's a good chance that you can make them blow that when they don't want to.
Yeah, like, especially watch out for that, because I think the Shaman can sit... What is his warband? Raiders, White Waste Tribesmen, Bear Sharks, and Ulfrendar. Like, it's... His warband, I think... Where's the Ulfrendar? I just need to check those guys really quick. Yeah, the highest defense thing he has is the Bear Sharks at defense 3. So he very much he doesn't have anything I want to say really defensible for he can sit into bunker until that time where he needs to die, and he can be easily sniped out. Yeah, White Tribesmen are defense 1. Jesus, oh my god,
paying it a little too well.
Yeah.
So moving on to the fucking things, the artifacts.
Yeah, we got 3 of them. Want me to read them off?
If you want to, or I can. I really don't mind.
Sure. Herald of Stone, draw event for the character. Once per battle, spellcasting actions cannot be performed until the end of the round. Pretty good. Like, I would, if you knew you were going up against Dwag, I'd probably take this. Old Dominion, I'd probably take this. Spires doesn't
Once
matter.
Per battle always feels like a big investment.
Yeah, but there's usually a turn that you can kind of tell like where you need it the most, and that's kind of like the turn you want to use it on.
Yeah.
But that does have the problem of he has to go first because there's a draw action on his card. But he has spells he wants to cast, so you can kind of like you can justify him going sooner because he has more utility with the Herald of Storm and his like blurred vision and stuff.
Yeah.
Ruins of Wisdom, he gets another draw action. He may roll 3 additional dice to cast a spell and perform a spellcaster action. This one's actually pretty good just because you get 3 dice. Is this a once per battle? Yeah, it's once per battle. And also it's on his activation so that you can control it more.
Yeah, then, I think it's mainly good for getting that 1 mega heal with the
with the Volva?
Yeah, that is where I see the most utility. But then you're looking at, I mean, if you combine that with focus, like you're gonna need a lot of output, but you're looking at a 35-point investment for that. So.
Yeah, but still, it's still really good. I like it more because you control it better. And then Ruin of Fate is the character gets tenacious, so you don't really care.
That's funny to add on when you're already taking the Volva and the other. The mastery, the rune of shielding, so then they get bastion and tenacious. Like it becomes, and then if you really want to be,
oh shit, it's a regiment this character's attached to. That is actually good.
You take tack 1 as well, and then they get tenacious and indomitable and bastion.
You have done that to me, and it's super annoying.
Yeah, it borders on an NPE if I'm being honest. Just because it shrugs so much.
That's Nords. So we're gonna stop there just because of how long this episode is already going, and it's like midnight. So I want to give a thanks to everyone who listened. Things I want to talk about is that BonkTable has a Discord. You can find in the description below. BonkTable has a YouTube channel. You can find in the description below. BonkTable has battle reports and lore readings on the YouTube channel. Find more BonkTable content that is associated and related to Conquest there. Cassandra, you have anything to plug? You're new here.
No, not at the moment. I'm going to carry on my predecessor's legacy of threatening to make battle reports and then not actually doing so. Godspeed to my predecessor. Hopefully they find the peace that they're looking for. Presumably somewhere in South Asia or, frankly, anywhere in the world. I know that Mike was a big Carmen Sandiego fan, so I assume he's going to express that in his escape from justice. But, we wish him the best. But it's a new chapter in the BonkTable saga otherwise. So.
The life of BonkTable.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Sweet. All right, everyone, I hope you have a great day. Thank you for listening.
Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.